She threw herself into Lin Muyao's arms and answered sullenly in his ear. Okay, Chapter 501, Morning Sickness Arrives. After eating the New Year's Eve meal, Tang Wanna woke up the next morning feeling a bit nauseous. Then, after finishing breakfast, she ended up vomiting spectacularly. After that, her mouth felt tasteless, her chest felt tight and uncomfortable, and she couldn't eat much. She retched several times throughout the day, which scared Qin Hao to death. In the afternoon, he rushed her to the hospital for a checkup. The test results showed everything was normal, and the doctor said it was likely just a normal morning sickness reaction. Qin Hao, still worried, pressed the doctor further. Doctor, are you sure there's no problem? She had a great appetite yesterday and ate a lot. How did she end up like this today? She's vomiting really badly and can't eat anything. The doctor adjusted his glasses on his nose, stared at the report again, and finally replied seriously, I can assure you that based on the examination results, all the indicators are within the normal range, and there are no issues. Morning sickness is also a normal phenomenon. Some people experience milder symptoms, while others have more severe ones. Depending on individual constitution, your family should take good care of the pregnant woman's emotions, and try to have her eat smaller, more frequent meals. Prepare whatever she feels like eating, and observe for a couple more days. If the vomiting becomes very severe, you can come in for an 4 drip. There was no other choice. Qin Hao took Tang Wanna back home. Tang Wanna was in poor spirits all day, having vomited several times and feeling quite unwell. Shortly after getting in the car, she started dry heaving. Qin Hao quickly pulled over to the side of the road, gently patting her back and comforting her. Honey, how are you? Are you still feeling unwell? Qin Hao's eyes were filled with heartache. He remembered that when Lin Shu was pregnant, she didn't seem to suffer from such severe vomiting like their Wanna. Moreover, she had been eating and drinking normally before. This sudden change made him feel extremely distressed as well. Tang Wanna dry heaved a few times, then gradually recovered and comforted Qin Hao, saying, I'm fine now, I feel a bit better. Only after confirming that she was no longer dry heaving did Qin Hao start the car again and drive home. As soon as the two of them entered the house, Qin Qing and the two mothers came out to greet them, eagerly asking about the checkup results. The two fathers also followed behind, waiting anxiously. Everyone seemed a bit worried. The doctor said all the indicators are normal, so it should just be normal morning sickness, Qin Hao said with a frown. Only then did everyone breathe a sigh of relief. Qin's mother asked Wanna if there was anything she felt like eating, saying she could prepare something right away. Tang Wanna shook her head. Mom, I'm not hungry right now. I'll eat later. I'm going to lie down on the bed for a while. Alright, go lie down and rest first. You can eat whatever you feel like when you wake up later. Qin's mother urged Qin Hao to take her upstairs to rest. Tang's mother watched her daughter in this state, her heart aching. When she was pregnant with Wanna, she had also suffered from severe morning sickness, which was why Tang's father later insisted on having only one child and refused to have any more. She remembered that back then, she had loved the cold jelly her mother used to make. Tang's mother quickly added, Wanna, would you like some cold jelly? I can make some for you to eat when you get up later. I want to eat, thank you, Mom. Tang Wanna immediately thought of the cold jelly her grandmother used to make when she was a child upon hearing her mom mention it, and it seemed her appetite was returning a little. Mrs. Tang hurried to the kitchen to prepare the cold jelly, and Mrs. Qin followed to help. Qin Qing looked at Wanna's pale little face and felt her heart ache too. Brother, hurry up and carry Wanna to the room. This looks too scary. Pregnancy is really terrifying. I can walk on my own. Tang Wanna quickly said, it really wasn't that exaggerated. She just felt a bit uncomfortable in her stomach, had no appetite, and couldn't stand certain smells. Qin Hao bent down and scooped her up in a princess carry, heading straight upstairs. After entering the room, he carefully placed her on the bed. His expression far from pleasant. Tang Wanna raised her hand and gently stroked his furrowed brow, smiling as she said, Honey, I'm really fine. It might just be my constitution. So the symptoms are a bit stronger. The doctor already said the baby is perfectly healthy. I feel terrible seeing you vomit like this, Qin Hao said gloomily. Tang Wanna patted the spot beside her, signaling for him to lie down with her. Qin Hao took off his jacket and lay down on the bed with her. After what seemed like serious consideration, he spoke. Honey, you once asked me whether I prefer a boy or a girl. I've thought about it very carefully, whether it's a boy or a girl. We'll only have this one child. Ah, why? Tang Wanna instantly became agitated. If she weren't feeling so unwell, she would have sat up right then to question him. Pregnancy is too hard. I can't bear to see you suffer like this. It's only just begun, and you're already vomiting so much. It'll be even tougher when your belly gets bigger. Let's just experience this once. It's enough. Besides, having one child is perfectly fine. Qin Hao spoke earnestly. He truly only wanted Wanna to go through this once. But wouldn't a child feel lonely? Look how well you and Qingqing get along. Actually, I don't feel that uncomfortable anymore. I'm much better. The doctor also said morning sickness is normal. Tang Wanna wasn't ready to give up. She had previously thought about having one boy and one girl. If third brother disagreed, how could she have another? Big brother's family already has 3 children. In the future, second brother, fourth brother, fifth brother, and Qingqing will all get married and have kids. Our little treasure won't be lonely. Qin Hao had thought it through carefully. Their children would definitely grow up together. How could they possibly be lonely? It would be anything but quiet. But Tang Wanna was about to say something to argue when another wave of nausea hit her. She started dry heaving. Since she hadn't eaten much all day, there wasn't much to vomit, just continuous dry heaving. Qin Hao immediately sat up and asked anxiously, "How are you? Still feeling sick? Do you want some water? I'll go pour a cup of warm water. Just lie down for now." With that, he rushed out of the room to get water. Tang Wanna felt like crying but had no tears left. This morning sickness was just too perfectly timed. In the days that followed, Tang Wanna truly experienced the feeling her mother had described. Vomiting so severely during pregnancy that it felt like the world was spinning. No wonder her father had insisted that her mother not have another child, because now she was the same, unable to eat more than a few bites of anything, constantly vomiting, and even feeling nauseous at the thought of drinking water. It was truly miserable, seeing her like this. Third brother was so heartbroken that he cried, staying by her side without leaving for a moment. One night, she was already lying in bed when third brother came out after his shower. The smell of his shampoo made her so uncomfortable that she quickly reached out to stop him, saying, "Honey, don't come any closer. What's wrong?" Qin Hao wore a hurt expression. The shampoo. Tang Wanna covered her mouth and nose as she spoke. What's wrong with the shampoo? Qin Hao still didn't understand. He had always been using this shampoo. It smells awful. Tang Wanna finally blurted out, holding her breath. In the end, Qin Hao hurriedly retreated to the bathroom and washed his hair again with the shampoo Tang Wanna used before coming out. From then on, all the shampoo, body wash, hand soap, and laundry detergent in the house were replaced. Even Mother Tang couldn't help but say, "This little one has so many demands. Even more exaggerated than when I was pregnant with Wanna. It seems he'll be quite mischievous when he comes out." Chapter 502, The Birth. Lin Shu returned to her hometown on the second day of the Lunar New Year to pay respects at her grandfather's grave. With only half a month left until her due date, Tang Chen was a bit worried. What if something happened? Although Lin Shu had been in good health since becoming pregnant, he was still concerned. However, it was only right to go back and pay respects to her grandfather. In Jiangcheng, there is a tradition of visiting the graves of deceased relatives during the New Year. His original plan was to take the 2 children back while Lin Shu stayed home, but when Lin Shu expressed her desire to go, he softened. After consulting with the doctor, who said it shouldn't be a problem, he decided to take her along. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, Tang Chen, along with his family of 4 and the elderly Mr. Tang, went to pay respects to Tang Chen's parents. The next day, the family of 4 returned to Lin Shu's hometown, after paying respects to her grandfather. They returned on the same day. Lin Shu, being heavily pregnant, took longer than usual even for short walks, so they headed back immediately after the visit. Tang Chen deliberately took a business vehicle for the trip, adjusting the seats to a more reclined position so that Lin Shu could rest comfortably during the journey and avoid exhaustion from the long ride. After returning from the visit, Tang Chen no longer allowed Lin Shu to go out. at most. She could take a short walk around the old house after meals, and each time, he would insist she rest after just 10 minutes or so. Lin Shu herself was obedient and didn't dare to wander off. Recently, she had been feeling a sensation of pressure in her lower abdomen, and the doctor had confirmed that the baby had already engaged, meaning labor could start at any time. They needed to be prepared in advance, 5 days before the due date. In the evening, Tang Chen helped Lin Shu out of the bathroom. With her large belly, bathing had become quite inconvenient, so Tang Chen always accompanied her, staying nearby to assist. Just as the two of them reached the edge of the bed, Lin Shu felt a sudden wetness below. Looking down, she saw that her pajama pants were soaked. She froze for a moment before realizing that her water must have broken. "Darling, take out the suitcase we packed earlier for the hospital stay," Lin Shu said calmly, a week ago. Under Lin Shu's direction, Tang Chen had already packed all the necessary items for childbirth into a suitcase, ready to grab it and head straight to the hospital once labor started. She was worried that if her contractions began first, Tang Chen, who wasn't very familiar with these things, might panic and make a mess of the situation. Tang Chen didn't yet know that Lin Shu's water had broken. He put down the pajamas he was holding and walked over nervously, asking, "What's wrong? Are you having stomach pains? Do we need to go to the hospital?" Lin Shu stood still, not daring to move. "My water broke." Tang Chen froze for a moment, then immediately scooped her up in a princess carry. As he ran downstairs, he called for Aunt Wang to fetch the suitcase from the room. Tang Chen's grandfather and their 2 young children were already asleep, so he didn't wake them. He rushed to the garage in one breath, placed Lin Shu in the passenger seat, and told her to elevate her legs. Just then, Aunt Wang arrived with the suitcase. "Is the young mistress about to give birth?" Aunt Wang asked anxiously. "Yes, Aunt Wang, we're heading to the hospital now. Please inform Grandpa and the others tomorrow morning and have them come to the hospital then. It's too late tonight." "No need for so many people to go," Tang Chen instructed. All right, hurry and go," Aunt Wang nodded and said. Tang Chen put the suitcase in the trunk, jumped into the car, and immediately drove to the hospital. Speeding all the way there, they had always gone to a private hospital for prenatal checkups and planned to deliver there as well. On the way, Tang Chen had already called the hospital, so when the car arrived at the entrance, doctors and nurses were already waiting with a stretcher. Lin Shu was quickly taken to the delivery room. Under the guidance of the nurse, Tang Chen changed into sterile clothing and went in with her. Lin Shu had a fetal heart monitor strapped to her belly, an oxygen mask on, and various other instruments like a blood pressure monitor. However, her condition seemed stable. Her water had just broken, and the contractions hadn't started regularly yet. She only felt some faint, occasional pains. Tang Chen sat by the bed, holding her hand, looking even more nervous than she was, the one about to give birth. "Honey, how are you feeling? Don't be afraid, I'm here with you." Lin Shu smiled at him. "Yeah, I'm okay for now." After all, she had given birth before, so she wasn't as tense. The doctor asked Tang Chen to buy some food for Lin Shu, as the baby was expected to arrive late into the night. Tang Chen left the hospital and drove quite a distance before finding a wonton shop. He packed a bowl of wontons and brought them back to the delivery room. By the time he returned, Lin Shu's contractions had become much more frequent. She only managed a few bites of the wontons before stopping. The pain was too intense. Seeing the situation, the doctor consulted both of them and administered an epidural. When Tang Chen heard that there was such a needle, he immediately said, Give it right away. Once it's done, it won't hurt anymore." "Right," the doctor said with a smile. "It can help relieve the pain, but it needs to be turned off before delivery. You'll still need to push when the time comes." "All right, we'll take it." Tang Chen's eyes were red as he watched Lin Shu in pain, her expression twisted in agony, the veins on her hands bulging as she gripped the bed frame. She even comforted him, saying, "It's okay." All he wanted was to take that pain upon himself. After the epidural was administered, the doctor asked Lin Shu to close her eyes and rest for a while, checking her cervical dilation every half hour. Finally, at a little past 4 in the morning, the baby was born. The boy, 7 Jin 8 Liang, approximately 3, 9 kilograms, a big, chubby boy with a loud cry. He wailed loudly the moment he came out, sounding full of energy. After the nurse weighed him, dressed him, and placed him in the small bed next to Lin Shu still needed to be observed in the delivery room for 2 more hours. With the baby and Tang-Chen keeping her company, after the baby was born, Tang-Chen only glanced at him and then paid no more attention, his eyes fixed entirely on Lin Shu. The process of childbirth had been heart-wrenching for him. They say men don't shed tears easily, but he couldn't hold back and cried. With red-rimmed eyes, the grown man gripped Lin Shu's hand and said in a choked voice, "Honey, you've worked hard." What he was thinking was, if he had known childbirth was this painful, he wouldn't have had this one. Cheng Cheng and Wonuo were enough. Yes, he regretted it. Lin Shu looked at him and instead comforted him. "Honey, it's okay now, the baby is born. Go take a look at him, isn't he adorable?" "I don't want to." "Who told him to cause Mom so much pain? He's not cute at all." Tang-Chen buried his head in Lin Shu's arm and muttered sullenly, truly not going to look at the baby again. Actually, in that brief glance he took earlier, he noticed that the baby was indeed quite adorable, with fair skin, not yellowish or reddish as he had imagined, but rather a fair complexion with a rosy glow. The baby also had long eyelashes, and the nurse said he had double eyelids, though he hadn't looked closely enough. He didn't know if Cheng Cheng and Wonuo looked like this when they were born, just a tiny little thing, eyes closed, lying quietly asleep in their little bed. He didn't even dare to hold him. Chapter 503, nickname Lele. The day after Lin Shu gave birth, to be precise, after daybreak, she and the newborn were both back in the hospital room. The private hospital's single room had a pleasant environment, and Tang-Chen had even hired a maternity nurse to help with the care. Early in the morning, Old Master Tang brought the 2 little ones to the hospital, upon waking up and hearing from Aunt Wang that his grandson and granddaughter-in-law had gone to the hospital late last night because her water had broken. The elderly man didn't waste a moment. He immediately took the 2 children and headed out. Aunt Wang had prepared some soup, which they brought along to the hospital. Since it was a natural birth, aside from feeling a bit weak, Lin Shu was in good spirits after delivering the baby. By the next day, she was already able to get out of bed and walk around. However, Tang-Chen couldn't bear to let her walk too much, even though the doctor recommended light walking to aid recovery. He still couldn't bring himself to allow it. When the 2 little ones and their great-grandfather arrived, Lin Shu had just taken a couple of steps before Tang-Chen carried her back to bed. The 2 children rushed in and threw themselves into their mother's arms. "Mom, Mom, we're here," Lin Yunuo called out from outside the door, ran in, and threw herself by Lin Shu's bedside. Lin Yucheng, meanwhile, looked around for his younger brother. "Mom, where's my brother?" At that moment, Tang-Chen had gone with the nanny to bathe the baby, so only Lin Shu was in the hospital room. Just as Lin Yucheng finished speaking, 3 people from outside pushed the baby's small bed into the room. Old Master Tang walked a bit slower and happened to run into Tang-Chen and the others outside the door. "Your brother is back," Lin Shu said with a smile to Lin Yucheng. Lin Yucheng turned around and saw his dad and great-grandfather were both there. His dad was pushing a small bed that looked like a stroller, and lying on the bed was a baby with closed eyes, looking very cute. Both he and Lin Yunuo gathered around. "He's so adorable," Lin Yunuo couldn't help but exclaim. "Brother, isn't he cute?" She then looked up and asked Lin Yucheng. Lin Yucheng had been staring at the baby and nodded. "Yes, very cute." He stood on tiptoe and gently reached out with one finger to touch the baby's hand on the bed. Unexpectedly, the little brother, with his eyes closed, tightly grasped his finger. He immediately laughed. "Dad, Mom, Great-Grandpa, look, the little brother is holding my hand." Old Master Tang hurried over, and Tang-Chen turned to look at them, seeing the little one with his eyes closed, his small hand gripping Chengcheng's finger. The scene was exceptionally heartwarming. The maternity matron then said with a smile, "This little one is so well behaved, he didn't even cry during his bath. Other babies cry so much, really." "Cheng Cheng and Wonuo used to cry before," Lin Shu said with a laugh. Tang-Chen then said, "He's just lazy." always sleeping with his eyes closed. He only wakes up for a little while when it's time to nurse, and goes right back to sleep after his full. He doesn't even open his eyes when he's being bathed. Ha ha ha. That sounds a lot like you when you were little. Old Master Tang laughed heartily after hearing this. If the little brother takes after dad, then my brother and I must take after mom, Lin Yunhuo said, tilting her head with a smile. She stood on tiptoe, trying to touch the baby's hand so he could grab her finger. The little one, with his eyes still closed, indeed grasped her finger, holding onto his brother and sister with each hand. It was a very heartwarming scene. Lin Yunhuo, her little finger held by her baby brother, exclaimed happily, "The baby's holding my hand too. Look, Mom, Dad, Great-Grandpa." Lin Shu looked at the three children and said with a smile, "It seems the little brother really likes his big brother and sister." Everyone in the room laughed. After that, Mo Ziyi, Qin Hao, and the others came to the hospital one after another to visit Lin Shu and the baby, except for Tang Wanna, who was suffering from severe morning sickness and had to rest at home. Everyone else came. Xia Qingqian also arrived alone, bringing a set of baby clothes and a toy gift box. She didn't come with Ji-fan because she came directly from the filming location. Since it was a private hospital with good security measures, her arrival didn't cause any commotion. Lin Shu's hospital room was quite spacious, a suite with a kitchen where she could prepare meals, which was quite convenient. Fortunately, it was roomy enough, otherwise, there wouldn't have been space for everyone to stand. One by one, people arrived at the hospital. After greeting Lin Shu, Tangichen, and Old Master Tang, they all gathered around the baby's crib, playing with the little one. The baby was quite cooperative. After everyone arrived, it woke up, opened its eyes, looking incredibly adorable, and even blew a few spit bubbles at everyone. It made Xia Qingqian and Qin Qing's maternal instincts surge. Even Lu Yang exclaimed how adorable the baby was, saying it made him want to get married and have one of his own. When everyone asked about the baby's name, Lin Shu replied, "His nickname is Lele, but we haven't decided on his formal name yet. Lele, hoping he'll always be happy." Initially, they had asked Grandpa to choose the formal name, but Grandpa said they should decide on their own, as long as they liked it, so the formal name hasn't been settled yet. However, it was previously agreed that this child would take Tangichen's surname. Both Old Master Tang and Tangichen were fine with it, and Old Master Tang even said it would be nice to have the baby take Lin Shu's surname. But Lin Shu insisted that the child must have the Tang surname. Everyone didn't stay for long, knowing that Lin Shu had just given birth and needed more rest. So when the confinement nanny picked up the baby to prepare for breastfeeding, the group left together. Old Master Tang also took Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunhuo with him. Although the two little ones insisted on staying to keep their mother company, they were eventually persuaded by Tangichen to leave with their great-grandfather. Tangichen stayed at the hospital to continue taking care of Lin Shu. The doctor said she could be discharged in about a week. They didn't opt for a postpartum care center, preferring to have her recover at home. If the confinement nanny and Aunt Wang became too busy, they planned to hire another helper. Other postpartum recovery services would be arranged as home visits. Staying at home would allow her to be with family, and she could rest in her room during the day while everyone was downstairs, so she wouldn't be disturbed. In the afternoon, Tang Wanna video called Lin Shu from home to check on little Lele. Lin Shu hadn't expected her morning sickness to be so severe and advised her to rest well. The two didn't talk for long before ending the call, as Lin Shu had just given birth and shouldn't spend too much time on her phone. All of this was mentioned by the confinement nanny, and Tangichen took it all to heart, implementing it very thoroughly. In the evening, the confinement nanny prepared dinner for Lin Shu. After she finished eating and everything was cleaned up, Tangichen let the nanny go home first. There were only 2 beds in the hospital room, one for Lin Shu and another for the accompanying caregiver. He had been staying at the hospital these past few days to take care of her himself, so the nanny didn't need to stay overnight. After the nanny left, Lin Shu fed the baby and asked Tangichen to put the baby back in his own crib. Previously, the nanny had always helped with carrying the baby, so this was his first time holding the little one. He tried several different positions but hesitated to actually pick the baby up. The baby looked so soft and delicate, and he was worried that he might hold him incorrectly or use too much force and accidentally hurt the little one. Chapter 504, Baby, I'm your dad. Lin Shu saw how nervous Tang-Chen was and had been afraid to pick up the baby. She smiled and said, "Honey, don't be nervous, it's okay, babies aren't that fragile. Just hold his little bottom with one hand and support his neck and head with the other." Under Lin Shu's guidance, Tang-Chen finally picked up Lei. His whole body was stiff, while the little one lay softly in his hands, eyes closed, looking quite comfortable. Tang-Chen carefully placed the baby into the small crib and then let out a heavy sigh of relief. Gazing at the little one, who had closed his eyes and started to sleep again, he whispered softly in his heart, "Sweetheart, I'm your dad." He didn't even realize how tender his expression was as he looked at the baby, so how could anyone not like or love them? Little angels just grow more and more endearing the longer you look at them. Tang-Chen placed little Lei into his own small bed, tucked him in, gently pushed the small bed next to Lin Shu's big bed, and then sat down on the small chair by the bed to keep watch. "Honey, you sleep, I'll watch Lei," Tang-Chen said to Lin Shu. The confinement nanny had mentioned before leaving that newborns can only eat a little at each feeding and need to be fed at night, so Tang-Chen let Lin Shu sleep first while he kept watch, as it would be too exhausting for her to handle the night feedings alone. Lin Shu was indeed tired. She had been through a whole night of labor the previous day, and although she had taken a short nap after everyone left in the afternoon, she still felt sleepy. As soon as she lay down and closed her eyes, she fell asleep. Tang-Chen adjusted her blanket, stood up, walked over to the small bed, and gazed intently at the little one lying there. He was so tiny. Tang-Chen hadn't expected a newborn to be this small and soft, following the example of Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo from earlier in the day. He extended his index finger to gently touch the baby's little hand. Xiao Lei seemed to sense his father's presence and slowly opened his eyes, waking up, just like during the day. His little hand grabbed Tang-Chen's index finger, and after a short while, he closed his eyes again. Tang-Chen felt the strength in his tiny hand, that magical connection of blood ties, and a warm surge struck his heart. That feeling was truly wonderful. Tang-Chen stood by the little bed until Xiao Lei released his finger, and only then did he sit back down in the chair. The night was very quiet at that moment, and his heart was at peace, with his wife and their newborn child by his side. What moment could be happier than this? His father and mother in heaven would surely be very happy to see him so content. After Lin Shu gave birth to the baby, she didn't stay in the hospital for a full week and was discharged on the 5th day. The doctor examined and evaluated all her indicators, confirming that everything was normal and she could be discharged. Without delay, they completed the discharge procedures and went home, although the private hospital room was quite comfortable. It still wasn't as cozy as being at home. It was also troublesome for Grandpa to bring the two little ones back and forth every day, so it was better to return home. Lin Shu had an excellent postpartum recovery period, regaining the health she had lost after giving birth to Cheng Cheng and Nuo. Tang-Chen didn't go to the company for a whole month, handling urgent matters through online communication. Additionally, they specially hired a postpartum caregiver who was highly experienced and trained in preparing nutritious and abundant postpartum meals. Lin Shu almost always finished every meal. The previous caregiver mainly took care of the baby, while the new one was responsible for Lin Shu's 3 daily meals. Aunt Wang continued to cook for the rest of the family. After giving birth, Lin Shu had an abundant milk supply and mostly breastfed directly, although it was more tiring for her. She didn't want to give up breastfeeding. Tang-Chen slept with her, so he was almost always by her side during nighttime feedings, helping to bring the baby from the crib and returning little Lei to his own bed after he was full. Lin Shu, seeing how hard he worked, sometimes wanted to quietly pick up Lei herself, but every time she moved, Tang-Chen would wake up immediately and not let her get out of bed to carry the baby. "Darling, if you need to breastfeed, just call me. You can't carry the baby yourself." The postpartum caregiver said that since you're still in the recovery period, carrying the baby now might cause soreness later. Be good, and wait a little longer before holding him. "Okay," he coaxed Lin Shu. Lin Shu also understood his intentions and nodded obediently. Saying, "Okay," after a pause, she added, "I just think you're working too hard." "I'm not working hard at all. You're the one who's really going through it with the pregnancy and childbirth. What I'm doing is nothing in comparison," Tang said as he skillfully carried Lele to the bed. After days of practice, his technique for holding the baby had become very proficient and proper. By the time the baby was 1 month old, Lin Shu had fully recovered and was finally allowed to go outside. Lele, who had been born exceptionally good-looking without the usual newborn wrinkles, had grown even more adorable over the month, with a surprisingly big appetite. The little one had gained quite a bit of weight, and their features had become more defined, making them even more beautiful. Lu Yang and the others would drop by to see the baby every now and then, with Lu Yang visiting the most frequently, 3 or 4 times a week. If it weren't for his busy work schedule, he probably would have come every day. He didn't forget Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo either, nor did he neglect the 2 little ones just because Lele was born. Every time he came, he would bring them some small toys or tasty snacks. Now, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo eagerly look forward to his visits, calling Lu Yang every evening before dinner. The basic conversation goes as follows: "Uncle Xiao Wu, are you coming to see the little brother today? Grandma Wang cooked a lot of delicious dishes." It was usually Lin Yunuo who made the call under her brother's instructions. Her sweet, childish voice melted Lu Yang's heart. "Uncle Xiao Wu will come after work later, Nuo. What snack would you like to eat today?" Lu Yang hadn't planned to go at first, as he got off work very late, but he couldn't resist his little niece's invitation and decided to go at the last minute. "Uncle Xiao Wu, you don't need to bring anything, just come by yourself." Lin Yunuo was very good with words, and her sweet talk made Lu Yang very happy. "If I really don't need to bring anything, then I'll head over right after work," Lu Yang said with a laugh over the phone. "Maybe you should bring some of the spicy dried tofu from last time, but with less chili," Lin Yunuo quickly added, genuinely worried that Xiao Wu wouldn't have time to buy it. "Ha ha ha, alright, I'll bring the spicy dried tofu for Nuo. I'll come over as soon as I finish work, don't wait for me for dinner." Lu Yang laughed heartily. He truly doted on Cheng Cheng and Nuo, almost always granting their every wish. Lin Yunuo hung up the phone and looked at her brother, Lin Yuqing, with a smile. It suddenly dawned on her, "Oh no, brother, I forgot to ask Uncle Xiao Wu to bring you the new car Lego set. The little one only cares about eating." "It's okay, Nuo, the spicy dried tofu is delicious," Lin Yuqing said with a smile, clearly doting on his little sister. Chapter 505. Peace and smoothness. Lele is now 1 month old. Today, Grandpa Tang asked Tang and Lin Shu when they plan to hold the full month celebration. They don't want to make it too extravagant. Just inviting some close relatives and friends for a meal will suffice. After discussing it, they decided to hold it on Saturday evening a week later, still at the Imperial Hotel, which is convenient. After returning to her room, Lin Shu called her parents to inform them about the full moon banquet. It had been agreed earlier that her parents and brother would come together before she gave birth. However, on the day before the spring festival, Lin Shu's grandmother suddenly fainted and was rushed to the hospital, spending even New Year's Eve there. Lin Shu's mother had been taking care of her at the hospital. They were all worried that Lin Shu would be anxious, so they waited until her grandmother's condition stabilized before informing Lin Shu and Tang. Since Lin Shu was about to give birth and couldn't go back, and her parents couldn't come over for the time being, both sides had to manage on their own. Lin Shu's grandmother ended up staying in the hospital for over a month and was only discharged around the time Lele turned 1 month old. Returning home to recuperate, He Jingyan went abroad even before the spring festival ended, but not for business reasons. An old colleague from the police department had asked for his help with an overseas case. Since he had previously spent many years undercover in Italy and was familiar with the situation, He Jingyan agreed to assist. Lin Shu had asked her parents not to inform her brother in advance, as assisting the police in such matters could be dangerous. She was worried that telling him would distract him, so He Jingyan only found out that his younger sister had given birth after returning to the country. When he called Lin Shu, she asked him to take care of their grandmother first and come to Jiangcheng once she was better. He Jingyan knew that Tang Chen would take good care of his sister, so he wasn't too worried. He also persuaded his parents to wait until their grandson's full moon celebration to go to Jiangcheng together. This time, the family would finally reunite. After Lin Shu finished the phone call, Tang Chen had just put the well-fed little Lei to sleep in his own crib. I called my parents and told them the date of the full-month celebration. They said they'd come 2 days early, and my brother will join them too, Lin Shu said to Tang Chen with a smile. Tang Chen, holding a pair of socks, walked over to Lin Shu and began putting them on her. During her postpartum month, Lin Shu had always worn socks all day. Even while sleeping, her mother had repeatedly reminded her to pay attention to these details, especially since giving birth in winter required extra care to stay warm. She had been diligent about it during the postpartum period, but after the first month, she sometimes forgot to put them on after bathing. However, Tang Chen always made sure to bring her socks and put them on for her, being even more attentive than she was. "Alright, once they've bought their tickets, I'll call your mom to get their flight details. I'll go pick them up then," Tang Chen said as he continued putting on Lin Shu's socks. After putting on his socks, Tang Chen urged Lin Shu to quickly get into bed and sleep. "Honey, go to bed early while Lei is also asleep. Later, the little one will want to nurse again." Lin Shu lay down on the bed, and Tang Chen followed, lying down beside her, leaving a small night light on. The two of them were lying there peacefully. But then Lin Shu's foot accidentally brushed against Tang Chen's calf. Ever since Lin Shu became pregnant, the frequency of their intimacy had plummeted. From the middle to late stages of pregnancy until after the baby was born and even past the first month, they hadn't been intimate at all. When Lin Shu was pregnant, Tang Chen had to exercise extreme self-control and didn't dare to. After the baby was born, they were genuinely too busy. Even though they had a postpartum caregiver, he still preferred to handle things himself, especially the nighttime feedings, which he helped with, so he really hadn't been in the mood. Now, lying in bed together, Lin Shu's touch seemed to ignite a fire within him, but he wasn't sure if Lin Shu's body was ready yet, so he spoke in a hoarse voice. "Honey," his tone was filled with grievance. Lin Shu, unaware of the fire she was stoking, turned over to face Tang Chen, her eyes sparkling as she asked, "Honey, what's wrong? Have you decided on Lei's formal name yet?" She was still troubled by this matter. Tang Chen, feeling uncomfortable, replied gloomily, "Not yet." Then he subtly shifted his body away, trying to avoid the trigger. Lin Shu threw herself onto his chest and continued asking, "Why haven't you decided yet? Do you not like Lei?" As she spoke, she pouted and rested her chin on Tang Chen's chest. Tang Chen's body stiffened slightly, his mind barely registering what Lin Shu was saying. His eyes were fixed on her slightly parted red lips. In one swift motion, he flipped over and pinned her beneath him, lowering his head to capture her alluring mouth in a fierce and urgent kiss. As he pressed down on her, Lin Shu gasped in surprise and immediately felt the change in Tang Chen's body against her thigh. Previously, all their attention had been on the baby, and they had been living a chaste life, completely neglecting this aspect. Now, it all erupted at once. Lin Shu responded, and Tang Chen grew even more excited. At the critical moment, Tang Chen still restrained himself and stopped. Looking down at the person beneath him with reddened lips and dazed eyes, he asked in a hoarse voice, "Wife, is it okay?" "What?" Lin Shu's mind was a complete mess. Unable to think clearly, Tang Chen patiently asked again, "Wife, now, is it okay?" He wasn't sure if it was possible, and he didn't want to hurt Lin Shu. Lin Shu didn't speak, just looked at Tang Chen with a dazed expression. She was also feeling uncomfortable. After a while, Tang Chen took a few deep breaths and prepared to get out of bed to take a cold shower to calm down. Seeing that he was about to get out of bed, Lin Shu quickly grabbed his arm. "Husband." Tang Chen's body stiffened for a moment, then he turned his face away and said with some difficulty in a hoarse voice, "It's fine. You go to sleep first. I'll just take a shower." Lin Shu tightened her grip on his arm, pulling him directly above her, then closed her eyes, lifted her head, and kissed Tang Chen's lips. All of Tang Chen's self-control completely crumbled at this moment. Tonight, he still tried his best to restrain himself and didn't cause any trouble, holding hands as they lay down, their faces adorned with happy smiles. Tang-Chen looked at the little one still sleeping soundly in the crib and softly uttered 3 words, Tang Yuan. Lin Shu hadn't yet reacted, asking blankly, "What?" Leilei's formal name is Tang Yuan. Tang-Chen turned his head and said to Lin Shu with a smile, "Tang Yuan, that's really nice," Lin Shu said with a beaming smile, safe and smooth, happy and joyful. This is their hope for his future. Chapter 506, Invitation to the Dinner Party. Early the next morning after Lin Shu gave birth, Chen Cixi went to the hospital, arriving earlier than everyone else. She had been calling Lin Shu repeatedly but got no answer, so in a panic, she called Tang-Chen. It was in the early hours of the morning, and Lin Shu had just been moved back to the ward after giving birth. Upon hearing that the baby had already been born, Chen Cixi immediately rushed to the hospital from home. Lin Muyao came with her, and the two arrived at the hospital just after 6 in the morning. The doctors and nurses had not yet started their rounds, the confinement nanny had not arrived, and the only people in the ward were Lin Shu, Tang-Chen, and the newborn baby. Chen Cixi still remembered how Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, when they were born, were tiny and wrinkled, because they had jaundice, their faces were yellowish, and since they were twins, both weighed less than 6 pounds at birth, it took 2 or 3 months of care for them to look about the same size as this newborn baby now. She hadn't expected this newborn baby to be so beautiful. Much prettier than when the older siblings were born. Chen Cixi shared many details about how Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo looked when they were born. And Tang-Chen listened very attentively. Those were years he could never make up for, and they represented his eternal debt to Lin Shu and their 2 children. Tang-Chen caught Lin Shu's meaningful glance and pulled Lin Muyao outside the hospital room, asking him a few random questions. Tang-Chen had previously invested in Lin Muyao's travel investment company. Though he wasn't particularly concerned about how much money he had made from the investment or how the company was currently developing, he received financial reports every quarter and could easily check. It was just that his wife seemed to have something to discuss with her best friend. So he had to take Lin Muyao out and leave the room to the 2 women. After Tang-Chen and Lin Muyao left the room, Lin Shu immediately pulled Chen Cixi aside to ask about their recent meeting with the parents. She knew both sets of parents and didn't think there would be any issues. Before Chen Cixi went to Lin Muyao's home, she had called Lin Shu to ask for advice on what gifts to bring, and Lin Shu had given her some suggestions. Now, hearing Chen Cixi say that everything went smoothly during the meeting with the parents, Lin Shu felt relieved. "Have you started discussing marriage yet?" Lin Shu asked with a smile. Chen Cixi shook her head gently. "Brother Ayao hasn't brought it up, so I can't be the one to mention it. How embarrassing would that be? Besides, there's no rush. Things are pretty good as they are now." She genuinely felt that the current situation was quite comfortable and was somewhat worried that if they got married, the change in their relationship might be difficult to adjust to. "Should I ask Brother Ayao and see what he thinks? Maybe do a little probing," Lin Shu suggested. "No need. Letting things take their natural course is fine. I'm not in a hurry to get married anyway, and the idea of having children is quite frightening." Chen Cixi declined Lin Shu's offer. "Alright, of course." Lin Shu respected Cici's own opinion. Everyone was an adult with their own thoughts and considerations. As a friend, she would naturally step up whenever Cici needed help, but she also wouldn't overstep her boundaries. The two chatted quietly for a while before Tang-Chen and Lin Muyao also came in. Chen Cixi didn't stay long and went straight to the studio. There were still many orders from last year that needed to be delivered. Since Lin Shu became pregnant, the workload had decreased significantly. This year, she was also considering whether to further reduce the number of orders. It wasn't suitable to work too hard right after giving birth. Anyway, they weren't short of orders now. They just needed to focus on doing one order well at a time, ensuring each client was satisfied, quality over quantity. While at the hospital, Chen Cixi had discussed her thoughts with Lin Shu. Lin Shu was deeply touched, especially since the main reason was related to her. Cixi was always thinking of her in every way, so of course, she had no objections. With 3 children now, her energy was definitely not what it used to be. Doing one order well at a time was also her idea. If you take on an order, you must do it to the best of your ability. Since her energy was limited, they could only take on fewer orders. After leaving the hospital, Chen Cece headed to the studio, and Lin Muyao dropped her off before returning to the company. When the car stopped downstairs at the studio, Lin Muyao called out to Chen Cece just as she was about to get out of the car, "Cece, what's up, brother Yao?" Chen Cece paused her movement of reaching for the car door and turned back to ask, "Tonight, the company is hosting a thank you banquet. It was supposed to be held before the new year but got postponed until after. Do you have time tonight? I'd like to take you with me." Lin Muyao looked at Chen Cece seriously as he spoke. In truth, he was a bit nervous, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. A smile spread across Chen Cece's face. "Sure," Lin Muyao heard her agree and smiled, immediately adding, "I'll pick you up at 6 p.m. After saying that, he reached his arm into the back seat and pulled out a black bag. "This is the dress I picked for you. It was a bit last minute, so I don't know if you'll like it." Chen Cece was momentarily stunned as she took the bag from Lin Muyao. She hadn't expected brother Yao to have prepared a dress for her. In fact, there were 1 or 2 sample dresses hanging in the studio, and she had just been thinking about wearing one of those. "Okay." Chen Cece took the bag and got out of the car. Lin Muyao rolled down the window, and the two waved at each other. Only after Chen Cece turned and entered the office building did Lin Muyao drive away. Chen Cece's workload wasn't too heavy at the moment, mainly continuing to handle the orders she had already taken. So, keeping an eye on the time, she changed into the dress right at the studio. The black strapless long dress was extremely form-fitting. Paired with a light-colored shawl to keep from getting too cold, Chen Cece let her hair down, her skin fair and pure, with a gaze that exuded nobility and elegance. She had gathered makeup from her studio colleagues and applied light makeup. The lipstick, a muted rosewood shade from her own bag, was understated yet full of charm. She wore no jewelry, as the studio didn't have any, but this only made her appear even more pure, fresh, and naturally beautiful. Xiao Wei was stunned as she looked at her. "Cece, you're so beautiful," she exclaimed, then circled around Chen Cece, examining her from all angles. Chen Cece chuckled. "It's not that exaggerated. Absolutely. It's even more beautiful than I said. You'll definitely steal the show tonight," Xiao Wei declared, raising her hand as if making a vow. Then, spotting Lin Muyao's car approaching from afar through the window, she hurriedly said, He's here. Cece, you should head down now. I'll lock up last." They were supposed to get off work at 5:30, but since it was just the beginning, Chen Cece also saw Lin Muyao's car from the window and said to Xiaowei with a smile, "Then I'm off. Hurry up and go," Xiaowei urged. Chen Cece lifted the hem of her dress, a smile curling at the corners of her lips, and walked toward Lin Muyao. Chapter 507, The Surprise at the Banquet. After Chen Cece came downstairs, Lin Muyao happened to get out of the car. He had also dressed up specially today, wearing a formal suit with his hair styled with hairspray, looking even more handsome than usual. The moment he saw Chen Cece coming down, his eyes lit up, clearly stunned by her appearance. His eyes were fixed on her, making Chen Cece feel a bit awkward. She deliberately smiled and changed the subject. "I didn't bring any makeup, so I just did a quick touch-up. It's passable, I guess." Lin Muyao looked at her and replied earnestly, "You look beautiful." He then walked over and opened the passenger door for Chen Cece, politely inviting her into the car as they set off for the evening banquet. When they arrived at their destination, Chen Cece realized that the level of tonight's banquet was likely quite high. As it was a thank you banquet held at Jiangqing's most luxurious hotel, the Imperial Hotel, the car came to a stop, and after Lin Muyao helped Chen Cece out of the vehicle, she inexplicably felt a bit nervous. She guessed there would be quite a crowd, since Brother Yao was bringing her to such an important company event. How could she not be nervous? Lin Muyao noticed the sweat in her palm and gently squeezed her hand. Turning to her, he smiled warmly and said, "It's okay." Then, holding her hand, he led her toward the banquet hall. Chen Cece's guess was correct. Lin Muyao and his team had reserved the largest banquet hall, as they had invited all the company employees, including long-term clients. As soon as Chen Cixi stepped inside, all she could see was a sea of people. Tang Yichen had also received an invitation, but he didn't have time to attend, so Mo Ziyi came in his place. The speech segment was skipped altogether. Mo Ziyi exchanged greetings with Lin Muyao and his other partner before staying for a short while and then leaving. Lin Muyao settled her at the main table before heading off to socialize. At first, Chen Cixi kept her eyes fixed on him, but as she started feeling a bit hungry, she picked up a small cake from the table and began eating. Since no one came to bother her, she gradually relaxed and started enjoying her snack. At that moment, the curtains around the banquet hall were suddenly drawn shut, and the lights in the hall dimmed. All other lights were turned off, including the brightest crystal chandelier on the ceiling. Chen Cixi was suddenly plunged into complete darkness. However, she wasn't nervous at all and continued eating calmly, thinking that a performance was about to begin. Since all the lights were off except for a few on the stage, it seemed the focus was on the stage. There were low murmurs among the crowd. Chen Cixi had just picked up a piece of chocolate cake and put it in her mouth when suddenly a beam of light shone onto the stage, revealing Lin Muyao standing there with a microphone. When Chen Cixi saw him standing on the stage, she was momentarily stunned, wondering if this was a speech before the opening. Hadn't he already spoken earlier? Chen Cixi stared at the person standing on the stage. From her angle, she could see most of Lin Muyao's face. The person on stage had delicate features and a handsome, because she was sitting close. She could even see his slightly flushed cheeks from nervousness, as well as his hand gripping the microphone so tightly that veins bulged out. Suddenly, a beam of light shone directly on her, and she froze. What was going on? Why was the light directed at her? She wasn't a company employee or a partner. Surely they weren't going to ask her to go on stage and speak, right? How awkward would that be? How would she even introduce herself? Chen Cixi's mind was flooded with countless questions, none of which had answers. She grew increasingly nervous, feeling completely at a loss under the spotlight, trying to remain inconspicuous. She glanced around, hoping to find someone to ask if there had been a mistake, but there was no one nearby. Everyone seemed to be keeping their distance from her table. Before she could figure out what was happening, music began to play. On stage, Lin Muyao picked up the microphone and started singing. His unique, magnetic voice filled the air as he performed an English song, Chen Cixi's favorite, "You're Beautiful." She used to play this song all the time at his apartment, humming along. And Lin Muyao knew it was her favorite English song. As Lin Muyao sang on stage, his passionate eyes remained fixed on Chen Cixi. She had never known he could sing English songs so beautifully. She even felt his rendition was on par with the original, if not more captivating. Chen Cixi sat there in a daze. Her eyes locked with his on stage. It felt as though she had completely lost herself in the enchanting sound of Lin Muyao's voice. As the song ended, waves of screams rose from the audience, along with many infatuated sighs. After finishing the song, Lin Muyao held the microphone and did not leave the stage, as if he had something more to say. Chen Cixi felt her heartbeat gradually quicken until the thumping sound grew so loud that she could hear it herself. She held her breath, feeling both a sense of anticipation and a nervousness that made her hands tremble. Frozen in her seat, she couldn't move. Lin Muyao looked at Chen Cixi. His girl sat there, meeting his gaze. He raised the microphone to his lips, and his cool, magnetic voice rang out. "That song just now is one my girlfriend really likes. I specifically learned it for her, and I hope she likes it." With such an open declaration, and the fact that only the two of them were illuminated by two beams of light in the entire venue, it was nearly impossible for anyone not to know who he was talking about. Chen Cixi's face instantly flushed bright red. With nowhere to hide, she lowered her head. Feeling extremely shy, someone in the crowd shouted loudly, "Boss, when are we going to have the wedding candies from you and the boss lady?" Once that started, everyone got excited, and one after another, people chimed in, shouting, wedding candies, wedding candies." To be honest, before Lin Muyao spoke, she had thought everyone was just teasing and joking around. She was waiting for him to tactfully explain, then for the lights to turn on, and for everyone to eat, drink, and continue having fun. Just hearing Lin Muyao holding the microphone, he walked down from the stage, heading straight towards Chen Cixi, and finally stopped right in front of her. At this moment, the lights in the banquet hall were a bit brighter than before, and everyone's gaze was fixed on them. Just then, a familiar and pleasant voice sounded in the ears, echoing throughout the entire banquet hall. "Cixi, will you marry me?" Chen Cixi was completely stunned. Staring blankly at the person kneeling on one knee before her, her eyes instantly welling up with tears, an overwhelming sense of joy enveloped her. Before this moment, she had not prepared in the slightest, nor had she ever considered this possibility. She had always thought that if they were to get married, it would simply be a matter of the two of them discussing it, setting a date, and then going to register, because both of them were rather pragmatic individuals. They seemed to lack a bit of romantic flair, at least, she felt that way about herself. So, tonight was undoubtedly one of the most unforgettable days of her life. Chapter 508, finally united as a couple. Chen Cixi was so shocked by the sudden and enormous surprise that she covered her mouth with her hand. She looked at Lin Muyao kneeling before her, holding up the ring, and seemed at a loss. Lin Muyao thought his actions had frightened Chen Cixi, so he stood up, took her hand, and said gently, "Cixi, did I scare you? Don't feel pressured, just listen to the voice in your heart, it's okay." Chen Cixi was indeed stunned by the sudden proposal. Gradually regaining her composure, she began to seriously consider her answer to Brother Ayao's proposal, the answer from the depths of her heart. During this time, they had met each other's parents, and the impressions were quite positive, with no discomfort on either side. Of course, these were not the most important conditions for marriage. For two people to reach the point of marriage, it must be because of love and compatibility, not mere compromise. Chen Cixi looked at Lin Muyao standing before her, and she heard the voice in her heart. Finding the answer, she slowly extended her left hand, her gaze gentle yet resolute as she smiled at Lin Muyao. "I do." This time, it was Lin Muyao's turn to freeze in place. He had truly believed she would most likely refuse, and he inwardly blamed himself for being too sudden. Leaving Chen Cixi unprepared, hearing her say "I do," he couldn't believe it. Trembling, he took Chen Cixi's extended left hand and slipped the ring onto her ring finger. Overwhelmed with excitement, his hand shook so much that it took several attempts to get it on. At this moment, the young girl holding a large bouquet of red roses walked over from behind and handed the roses to Lin Muyao, who then personally presented them to Chen Cixi. The girl delivering the flowers was an employee of Lin Muyao's company. She had been waiting in the back with the flowers for a while, ready to step forward as soon as her boss's proposal succeeded. The flowers had been personally chosen by Lin Muyao, vibrant red roses, fresh and blooming, symbolizing the flames of love and representing his passionate and fervent affection. After handing the roses to Lin Muyao, the young girl quickly ran off, letting out a deep sigh of relief. Because she had been standing so close, she had witnessed the entire scene unfold. She had been on edge, worried that her boss might not be able to give the roses. Fortunately, the future bride had extended her hand in the end. Her boss, with trembling hands, slipped the ring onto her finger, and she promptly delivered the roses. Finally completing her task, Lin Muyao looked at Chen Cixi with a smile and handed her the bouquet of roses. As Chen Cixi accepted the flowers, the entire room erupted in cheers, screams, and applause. It was clear that everyone had been holding their breath, eagerly awaiting this moment. Suddenly, countless balloons descended from the ceiling of the banquet hall, instantly transforming the space into a sea of balloons. Along with the balloons, red rose petals drifted down, filling the air. Besides the fragrance of roses, the atmosphere was saturated with an overwhelming sense of romance. Following the banquet, a cocktail party was held. Lin Muyao took Chen Cixi to accept the continuous stream of people coming to offer congratulations, especially the employees from their company, who were really lively. They directly called Chen Cixi the boss's wife one after another, with the unified blessing almost always being, wishing the boss and the boss's wife a happy union for 100 years and a precious child soon. Chen Cixi, a seasoned professional with years of experience in the workplace, was made to feel embarrassed by these lively and adorable young men and women. After the banquet ended, Lin Muyao and Chen Cixi went back together. The large bouquet of roses was placed on the back seat, bright red and vibrant. Both of them had smiles on their faces, and even while waiting at a red light, they couldn't help but glance at each other. After Chen Cixi brought the large bouquet of roses back, she placed it on the dining table in the living room, where it took up half the table. It was the first time she had ever received such a large bouquet of roses. After setting it down, she circled the table, looking at it from left and right, as if she couldn't get enough of it. The more she looked, the more she liked it. Lin Muyao smiled as he looked at her, taking note of her little gestures in his heart, silently reminding himself to give her more flowers in the future. Chen Cixi asked Lin Muyao to take a shower first. After he entered the bathroom, she couldn't wait to take out her phone and call Lin Shu, eager to share the joyful news of her engagement with her right away. Sister Xiaoshu, Brother Ayao proposed to me tonight, at his company's appreciation banquet, Chen Cixi said hurriedly as soon as the call connected. Then, holding up her left hand and gazing at the ring on her ring finger, she felt both excitement and happiness. Lin Shu was also delighted to receive her call. She hadn't expected that the two of them, who had just recently expressed uncertainty, would progress so quickly, already engaged. It seemed Brother Ayao was quite impressive. Brother Ayao is really something. Proposing at the company appreciation banquet, he actually came up with that idea, Lin Shu said with a laugh. Yeah. I really didn't expect it either. I was completely stunned at the time and stood there dazed for a long time. Chen Cixi said, her heart still feeling sweet. I'm so happy for you both. This wedding toast is finally a sure thing, Lin Shu said with a smile. Thank you, Sister Xiaoshu, Chen Cixi replied sincerely. The two didn't talk for long. Chen Cixi knew that Lin Shu couldn't stay on the phone for too long during this special period, so she quickly ended the call. Then, she immediately called her mother back. The mother and daughter talked for a long time. When Lin Muyao finished his shower and saw her on the phone in the living room, he didn't disturb her and quietly went back to the room first, leaving the living room space to her. When Mother Chen heard her daughter say she had been proposed to, Chen Cixi also described the details of the dinner party, starting from when Lin Muyao went on stage to sing. Mother Chen patiently listened to her daughter's cheerful voice until Chen Cixi finished sharing, her voice still filled with laughter. Only then did Mother Chen remember to say, "Sweetheart, I'm so happy for you." Hearing her daughter joyfully talk about the proposal, she knew she was happy. Her daughter had been sensible since she was young. Over the years, she had always worked hard and hadn't considered her own feelings. Now that she had met the right person and was getting married, Mother Chen naturally agreed and was delighted. Thank you, Mom, Chen Cixi replied with a smile. Perhaps because her father had passed away when she was young, she had matured early. She felt that her relationship with her mother was like that of both mother and daughter and friends. She had always been able to share anything with her mother, and they often chatted and talked heart to heart. Tonight's conversation was a bit scattered because she was somewhat excited, but her mother understood. After finishing the call with my mom, I hung up and checked the call log, only to realize we had talked for over an hour without noticing. Chen Cixi walked back into the room, where Lin Muyao was leaning against the headboard reading a book, wearing glasses, a look that felt quite different from his usual self. Chen Cixi noticed that he only seemed to wear glasses when working or reading, not all the time. Lin Muyao heard footsteps and looked up from his book. Cixi. Chen Cixi walked over to him and said, I was on the phone with my mom and ended up talking for a long time. I'm going to take a shower first. Alright, I'll wait for you, Lin Muyao said. Looking at her, Chen Cixi's little face couldn't help but blush again. The words I'll wait for you, coming from Brother Ayao's mouth sounded so suggestive. Chen Cixi quickly grabbed her pajamas and ran into the bathroom. Only one chapter today, something came up last minute. So I wasn't able to write as planned. I managed to squeeze in some time to type this chapter on my phone. I'll be busy later, so see you tomorrow. Chapter 509, Living Together. Chen Cixi slowly finished her bath and came out, finding that Lin Muyao was indeed waiting for her. He had taken off the glasses from his nose, and the book he had been holding earlier was now placed on the bedside table. He was leaning against the headboard with his eyes slightly closed, but as soon as he heard the sound of the bathroom door opening, he immediately opened his eyes and sat up straight. Chen Cixi moved step by step to the edge of the bed. Lin Muyao watched her with a smile in his eyes. When she approached, he patted the spot beside him, signaling for her to come up. "Cixi, it's time to sleep," he said in a low, husky voice that sounded especially captivating in the evening. Chen Cixi couldn't help but feel that he was trying to seduce her, but she had no evidence. Without further hesitation, she lifted the blanket and climbed into bed, lying flat on her back with her eyes closed. Only her slightly trembling eyelashes betrayed her pretense of sleep. Lin Muyao chuckled softly at her actions, then turned off the room light and lay down as well. In the darkness, the two of them lay stiffly side by side, both aware that the other was not asleep. After a while, Lin Muyao's voice broke the silence. "Cixi, when are you planning to move?" He had known for some time that Chen Cixi was looking for a place to live but had never dared to ask if she had found one. Last time Chen Cixi looked at a few apartments, there was actually one that was quite good. The apartment was very new. Located just a 5 or 6 minute walk from her studio, there were both a vegetable market and a supermarket downstairs, making shopping very convenient. She was basically planning to rent that one, but the previous tenant still had half a month left on their lease. The young woman was returning to her hometown and didn't plan to renew, so the landlord was looking for a new tenant. That's why the contract hadn't been signed yet. "The contract hasn't been signed yet. It'll probably be next month." Chen Cixi calculated the time and answered truthfully. She didn't think too much about why Lin Muyao was asking. Was it to schedule time in advance to help her move? It was possible, especially since he was quite busy with work. Upon hearing her words, Lin Muyao felt a surge of joy in his heart. The contract hadn't been signed yet. There was still time. He adjusted his breathing, gently turned over, and faced Chen Cixi's side. Softly, he asked, "Cixi, would you be willing to move in and live with me?" Chen Cixi was stunned and remained silent. In the darkness, Lin Muyao was extremely nervous, holding his breath and carefully waiting for her answer. After a while, Chen Cixi answered honestly, "I haven't thought about this matter." She truly hadn't considered it. Perhaps due to her upbringing, she had grown accustomed to being independent. It wasn't that she couldn't accept the idea of cohabiting before marriage, but she felt that before the two officially married, she couldn't rely entirely on the man, especially when it came to housing. Brother Ayao's house was bought by himself, and although hers was rented, it was still her own little nest. It seemed that without her own little nest, she would lose her confidence. Lin Muyao didn't pressure her either. "Then, from now until you decide to sign the contract, can you think it over carefully?" Lin Muyao asked in a pleading tone. Chen Cixi softly hummed in agreement, promising to give the matter serious consideration. Chen Cixi didn't take too long to think about it. The next morning, as soon as she woke up, she gave Lin Muyao her answer. She was willing to move in together. However, before the two officially married, she insisted on covering the daily living expenses. After all, if she offered to pay rent, not only would Brother Ayao refuse, but he would also be upset. She had seriously thought it over. Since she had accepted Brother Ayao's proposal, their future was undoubtedly headed toward marriage, so moving in together earlier wouldn't be a bad thing. Lin Muyao received such a big surprise early in the morning, grinning from ear to ear. No matter what Chen Cixi said, he nodded and agreed. "Okay, I'll listen to you. Whatever you say goes." Then, very quickly, he took Chen Cixi to Xinjiang Garden that same day and moved all the luggage she had previously packed and stored there. Chen Cixi had originally said there was no rush and that she could slowly move her things when she had time later, but Lin Muyao couldn't wait for later. He took action without delay that very day. Chen Cixi actually had quite a lot of belongings. After all, she had been in Jiangcheng for so many years, and she was used to being frugal and thrifty. Every time she moved, she couldn't bear to throw things away. When she packed her luggage for Xinjiang Garden, she finally made up her mind to discard many old items she had used for a long time, planning to buy new ones after renting a new place, now that she was moving in with Brother Ayao. His place already had everything, so there was no need to buy anything new. After Chen Xixi's luggage was moved in, Lin Muyao's small one-bedroom apartment was instantly filled up. He had intentionally cleared out half of the bedroom closet for her to store her clothes, and now every corner of the home bore traces of Chen Xixi. Lin Muyao couldn't have been happier seeing these changes. The small house finally had the feeling of having a mistress. When Chen Xixi went to visit Lin Shu, she returned the keys to the Xinjiang garden house to Lin Shu and also told her that she had moved in with Lin Muyao. Whenever Chen Xixi had free time, she would visit the newborn baby and Lin Shu, making frequent trips. Every time she went, she would either bring free-range eggs she found at the market or an old hen bought from the suburbs. She always brought something with her, although Lin Shu often said that they had everything at home and told her not to bother making the trip. Chen Xixi still brought something every time, saying, "These are free-range chickens from our own home. They're very good for postpartum recovery. You should drink more soup." Okay, Lin Shu was genuinely moved. In any case, Chen Xixi's kindness toward Lin Shu and the children was noticed by Tang Chen, and even old Master Tang grew very fond of her, treating her like a granddaughter. Whenever she left, he would insist on giving her bags of fruit and other things to take back home. Actually, everyone has these things and can afford them. It's all about the sincerity exchanged between hearts. Lin Shu knew that after she officially moved in with a Yao, she readily accepted the keys. That night, lying in bed with Tang Chen, she happily shared the news with him and murmured to herself, "I wonder when they'll hold the wedding. I really don't know what to give Cici for her wedding. I've already prepared the wedding dress, but it just doesn't feel like enough. I need to think about it carefully and start preparing in advance." Tang Chen was lying half-propped against the headboard beside her, holding a parenting book and reading it attentively. He had bought many books on the subject since Lin Shu became pregnant and had already read countless ones, truly gaining a lot of knowledge. Hearing Lin Shu's words, he raised an eyebrow and said bluntly, "Giving more money is the most practical gift." Lin Shu gave him a dissatisfied, coquettish glare. "Isn't giving money a bit too tacky? She's Cheng Cheng and Wonuo's godmother. After all." Chapter 510, Gifting a House. Tang Chen spoke up, "Let's gift a house. In the same complex where we bought one for Wana before, buy another one there. Didn't you go see it before and say it was really nice?" Tang Chen said seriously. Lin Shu's eyes lit up. "Husband, are you serious?" Lin Shu confirmed, seemingly unable to believe her ears. After all, houses in Jiangcheng aren't cheap, and the complex where they bought one for Wana before has a great location, making it even more expensive. No matter how much money you give as a wedding gift, it's unlikely to amount to the price of a house. Besides, Wana is, after all, Ichen's blood-related sister. Cici, on the other hand, is someone she personally feels indebted to, or more accurately, it's not really about repaying a debt. She wants to give a thoughtful and sincere wedding gift, not just hand over some money and call it a day. A house is indeed a very suitable wedding gift. Cici hasn't bought a house in Jiangcheng yet, and Ayao's current place is relatively small. It might be just enough for the two of them to live in now, but once they get married, have children, and if Aunt Chen or Ayao's parents come to visit, it definitely won't be enough space. I did hear before that Ayao bought another, larger house, probably intended as their marital home, but he said it won't be ready for another 2 years. That's quite a long time to wait. Wana's current residential complex offers ready-to-move-in units, featuring spacious 4-bedroom flats with high-quality finishes. With just some furniture added, it would be perfectly livable for Cici and Ayao Ge to use as their marital home after getting married. It would be truly ideal, whether for having family over during pregnancy or accommodating everyone after the child is born. Lin Shu carefully considered many factors and felt that Tang Chen's suggestion was incredibly practical. She had already decided to contact the sales manager from her previous home purchase first thing tomorrow morning to request another unit with the same layout. "Do I seem like I'm joking?" Tang Chen turned and asked. He always made sure to carefully think through every matter and every word his wife mentioned before responding. Pouting slightly, he wore a somewhat wronged expression. His unexpectedly adorable demeanor made Lin Shu's heart flutter. She immediately threw herself at him, planting a kiss on his cheek. and said with a bright smile, "Thank you, hubby." Tang Yichen's expression finally softened, but he still pouted, pointed a finger to his lips, and leaned in with his neck stretched out. His meaning obvious, Lin Shu's face flushed slightly, but she leaned in anyway and kissed him on the lips, though she pulled away quickly. Then, both of them looked at each other with smiles. Tang Yichen gazed at his wife's slightly flushed face and felt a stir in his heart, even after all these years of marriage. His wife still blushed and her heart raced easily. Every time he saw her shy expression, he couldn't help but want to tease her, unaware that she was playing with fire. Lin Shu leaned against Tang Yichen's chest, smiling radiantly, and continued talking about what they had just discussed. "Then I'll contact the sales agent tomorrow to finalize the house and see if there are any units with the same layout as Wanus." "Alright, whatever you say." Tang Yichen held her and lay down with her, his head drawing closer and closer until he swallowed Lin Shu's murmurs with a kiss. All of Lin Shu's sounds were muffled by Tang Yichen's lips. Ever since he had resumed their intimate life after her postpartum recovery, though she could sense his intense restraint and controlled frequency, each time made Lin Shu deeply feel that he had indeed been starving for several months. It's another night where even the moon would shyly hide behind the clouds. Tang Wanus' morning sickness lasted until she was over 4 months pregnant before it began to ease. In the early stages, her morning sickness was quite severe, causing her to lose a few pounds instead of gaining any weight during the first trimester. Qin Hao was heartbroken, looking visibly haggard and losing a significant amount of weight himself, so much so that when Tang Yichen and his brothers saw them, they were all wide-eyed in surprise. Each of them went out of their way to take them out for delicious meals and brought over anything suitable for pregnant women that wouldn't trigger nausea during the worst days of her morning sickness. Tang Wana could barely get out of bed. Both mothers were deeply concerned and urged Qin Hao to take her to the hospital for a thorough checkup. The doctor suggested an four to relieve the nausea, but Tang Wana repeatedly worried about whether it would affect the baby and refused the treatment. In the end, Qin Hao, seeing how severely she was suffering, grew so anxious that his eyes reddened and insisted on administering the 4 after receiving the saline 4. Her condition indeed improved significantly. Tang Wanus' energy levels also began to recover. By the time she reached 4 months, her morning sickness gradually started to subside. Unconsciously, even Tang Wana herself didn't realize her appetite was returning. One evening, she suddenly finished a full bowl of rice, drank a bowl of chicken soup, and still felt a bit hungry, asking for another serving. Everyone was stunned, especially Qin Hao, who sat there in disbelief as if he couldn't trust his own ears. It was Qin Qing who quickly stood up and went to the kitchen to serve her another bowl of rice. For the rest of the meal, the entire family could only watch in amazement as Tang Wana ate. It wasn't until they watched Tang Wana finish her second bowl of rice completely that everyone breathed a slight sigh of relief. Tang's mother, still anxious, held her daughter's hand and asked, "Wana, do you feel nauseous or like you want to vomit?" Tang Wana shook her head, only then realizing that her stomach didn't feel too uncomfortable. Qin's mother also expressed concern, saying, "Is it really okay to eat so much all of a sudden? Son, you need to keep an eye on Wana tonight. If she feels unwell, take her to the hospital immediately to see a doctor." Both fathers chimed in, agreeing that if she felt unwell, she should be taken to the hospital right away. They had all witnessed Tang Wana's struggles with nausea along the way and were deeply worried. Qin Hao, sitting beside Tang Wana, cautiously asked, "Honey, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Tang Wana shook her head again, smiling as she replied, "I feel pretty good. My chest doesn't feel as tight anymore, and I can taste things again." Everyone finally let out a sigh of relief. Without a second thought, Qin Hao hugged her tightly in front of the whole family, resting his head on her shoulder and neck, and said in a muffled voice, "Honey, you've been through a lot." Seeing this scene, Tang's mother and Tang's father, along with Qin's mother and Qin's father, quickly turned their heads away and left the dining table, giving the young couple some space. Qin Qing, as the only one who wanted to stay and watch, was also dragged away by Qin's mother. Tang Wana knew that during her pregnancy, not only was she going through a tough time, but everyone else was also having a hard time. especially her third brother, who had lost a lot of weight. She truly hadn't expected to be this sick, but some things are inevitable. To become a mother, one must endure these hardships, so she didn't find it bitter. It was a happy kind of hardship. So, mothers are truly great. Honey, the doctor said it's normal. Look. I'm fine now, right? I've become a big eater again, Tang Wanna said, pretending to be relaxed to comfort Qin Hao. Qin Hao buried his face in her neck, nuzzling and murmuring, "We'll only have this one. I'll never let you suffer like this again." Tang Wanna's eyes welled up with tears. Why was this idea so deeply ingrained in third brother's mind? But she really liked both boys and girls. It was such a difficult choice. Chapter 511, taking the initiative. By the time Wanna was 6 months pregnant, her belly had already begun to show. Moreover, since her morning sickness had subsided, her appetite had improved significantly. She quickly regained the weight she had lost during the early stages of pregnancy and was steadily gaining more. Qin Hao also started to put on weight again, but that was because every time Wanna wanted to eat something, she would always leave a little behind, and the leftovers would end up in Qin Hao's stomach. So, he was gaining weight right along with her. After Wanna's morning sickness stopped, she not only had a good appetite but also became very sleepy. Qin Hao absolutely refused to let her go back to work at the company. However, he himself resumed his normal work schedule after Wanna was 4 months pregnant. Tang Yichen also returned to the company after Leilei's first month. One of them was afraid that others wouldn't know he had become a father again. While the other was afraid that others wouldn't know he was about to become a father, they both kept talking about earning money for baby formula every day. Finally, Lu Yang couldn't take it anymore and said through gritted teeth, "Big brother, third brother, you two need to know when to stop." Tang Yichen and Qin Hao looked up and exchanged a glance, then replied in unison with Perfect, "You don't have children. How would you know the hardship of earning money for baby formula?" This made Lu Yang shout in frustration, "Just because I don't have children doesn't mean I'm not working hard. Don't you see how busy I am every day?" After saying this, he called out to Mo Zi and Ji Fengfan, "Second brother, fourth brother, why don't you two say something? Big brother and third brother are being so unreasonable." Mose raised an eyebrow and continued to look down at the documents, while Ji Fengfan rubbed his nose pretending not to hear. In the past, only the eldest brother would show off about his child, but now the third brother has joined the team. How dare they argue? After Tang Wanna's condition stabilized, her parents returned to Nancheng, planning to come back when she was close to giving birth. They weren't quite used to living at the Qin residence, and as academics, they felt uncomfortable if they didn't read a couple of books a day. They had no worries either. Qin Hao was taking care of their daughter attentively, and Qin's parents were also very considerate. Wanna reassured her parents to go back without worry, saying she had a great appetite, could eat and sleep well, and was living a life as content as a pig. The third brother took meticulous care of her, and she herself felt like the Empress Dowager in the imperial palace, with someone attending to her every need. It's just, she felt that the third brother was being overly cautious, even though the 3-month danger period had passed. He still didn't dare to touch her. In the evening, after the two had finished bathing and were lying in bed, Qin Hao turned on the small speaker by the bedside to play some soft music. As usual, he then flipped through a book and began the prenatal routine. Lying on the bed, he started telling stories to their unborn child, facing Tang Wanna's swollen belly, watching his serious expression. Tang Wanna felt a bit unsettled. Since becoming pregnant, her emotions had become more amplified. Something that wouldn't have happened before. She was actually feeling jealous of her own child. Lying there, she gazed at third brother's profile and began to let her thoughts run wild. She had gained so much weight, developed some small spots on her face, and felt both out of shape and unattractive. Was third brother no longer looking at her? Her mind then wandered to things she had read online, that men are most likely to cheat during pregnancy because they aren't getting satisfied. The more Tang Wanna thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. It had been a long time since they had been intimate, and now third brother slept far away from her. Since he had returned to his regular work schedule, she hardly saw him in the mornings because by the time she woke up, he had already left for the office. The only time she could see him was after he returned from work, compared to the days when they used to stick together all the time. The time they spent together had significantly decreased. Sometimes, when Tang Wanna took an afternoon nap alone in bed, she felt very unaccustomed to it. If third brother worked overtime and came home late, she might already be resting in bed. The more Tang Wanna thought about it, the more she felt that this situation was not acceptable. Just then, Qin Hao finished reading a fairy tale, closed the book, and prepared to sleep. Tang Wanna shifted her body, adopting what she thought was a very seductive pose. She even cleared her throat deliberately and called out in a deliberately charming voice, "Husband." She stretched out her foot, lightly and teasingly rubbing it against Qin Hao's thigh. Qin Hao was kneeling right in front of her belly, watching Tang Wanna lying on her side on the bed. She was wearing a loose nightgown, beneath which the outline of her large maternity underwear was faintly visible. There were a few small freckles scattered across her face, making her look even more playful and adorable. She deliberately called out to him in her soft, sweet voice, and Qin Hao immediately felt a surge of heat rushing downward. In his eyes, Wanna was absolutely beautiful at that moment. Qin Hao knelt dumbfounded on the bed, staring at Tang Wanna, and unconsciously swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. The sight made Tang Wanna's heart flutter as well. Seeing that he wasn't reacting much, she directly pulled the hem of her nightgown up a little higher. "Honey, my thigh is a bit uncomfortable. Could you massage it for me? Maybe I walked a little too long today." Tang Wanna made up an excuse. She refused to believe she couldn't win over third brother tonight. The moment Tang Wanna lifted her nightgown, Qin Hao forced himself to look away, his voice hoarse as he said, "Where does it hurt? I'll come back earlier to walk with you from now on." His warm hand gently rested on Tang Wanna's thigh and began to massage it. After just a short while, he stopped. "I need to go to the bathroom." He had to take a shower immediately. Facing the woman he loved, looking like this in front of him, it would be abnormal not to feel anything. Tang Wanna was overjoyed to see third brother's face flushed bright red. Just as Qin Hao was about to get off the bed, she grabbed his arm. Caught off guard, Qin Hao stumbled and fell onto the bed. He hurriedly tried to push himself up, but Tang Wanna swung one long leg over him, preventing him from getting up. Qin Hao didn't dare to move too forcefully, worried he might hurt her. His voice was even hoarser than before as he pleaded, "Honey, please let me get up first." "Okay, no." Tang Wanna giggled and directly refused, rubbing her long legs against Qin Hao's body as she continued to call out, "Husband, hug me." Lying on the bed, Qin Hao felt his entire body heating up, but he still put up a final resistance, trying his best to restrain himself. After all, Wanna had been vomiting so badly earlier. He was genuinely afraid, worried that something might happen to her. Although the doctor said it would be fine after 3 months, he really didn't dare. Tang Wanna moved closer and closer, rubbing against him continuously while murmuring, "Husband, my husband." Qin Hao closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they were filled with fire. In one swift motion, he gently placed her beneath him, lowered his head, and kissed her. Chapter 512. Finally succeeded. Qin Hao kept supporting his body, worried that he might press down on the belly of the dazed person beneath him. He kissed her with extreme caution and restraint. After a gentle kiss for a while, he still said in a hoarse voice, "Be good, go to sleep first." Tang Wanna frowned slightly upon hearing his words, her eyes instantly reddening. A pitiful voice sounded in Qin Hao's ear, "Husband, do you not like me anymore? Do you dislike my figure now?" Qin Hao was completely dumbfounded, feeling both heartache and anxiety as he hurriedly explained, "Darling, how could that be? I'm just worried about your health." Qin Hao no longer needed to take a cold shower. The fire in his body was instantly extinguished by fright. He quickly returned to bed, gently holding Tang Wanna's face and speaking softly to comfort her. It's often said that pregnant women tend to overthink and experience rapid mood swings. When his elder brother had mentioned this about his sister-in-law, Qin Hao hadn't paid much attention. Thinking to himself that Wanna had always been sweet-tempered since childhood and wouldn't be so unpredictable, little did he know that he would be proven wrong so soon. The sight of Tang Wanna struggling to hold back her tears made Qin Hao's heart ache even more. He thought to himself that he should have just gone along with her wishes instead of making her cry, only to end up having to comfort her himself, after Chin Hao had been softly coaxing her for a long time. He didn't notice the young woman secretly tugging at his sleep pants, her small hand tentatively reaching inside. Chin Hao shuddered all over, freezing in place. Tang Wanna had thrown caution to the wind today. She was already 6 months pregnant, and if they delayed any longer, it would be the 3rd trimester when they couldn't be intimate again. Chin Hao turned over again, supporting himself above her, and slowly removed the barriers between them. In the end, Tang Wanna fell asleep sweetly with a slight smile on her lips, holding Chin Hao's arm. In her drowsiness, she felt her 3rd brother wiping her body with a warm towel. With her eyes closed, she unconsciously called out, "Husband." I'm here," Chin Hao replied softly. I love you." After saying these 3 words, Tang Wanna fell into a deep sleep, kneeling on the bed with a towel in hand. The man's eyes were filled with tenderness. His thin lips parted slightly as he responded in a deep voice, "I love you too, deeply." Some feelings never fade, instead, they grow stronger over time. A steady, enduring flow is the best way to describe them. During the later stages of Tang Wanna's pregnancy, she rarely went out. On this day, after Lin Shu dropped Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunyor off at school, she gathered some of Leilei's old baby clothes to bring to Tang Wanna. She had specifically saved them for Wanna. Many were brand new, while others had only been worn once or twice. There's an old saying that newborns who wear hand-me-downs will be well behaved, so Chin's mother had asked Wanna to request some from Lin Shu a while ago. After all, it doesn't matter much what color a newborn wears. After sorting through the clothes, Lin Shu brought some over for Tang Wanna and saved a portion for Chen Sisi as well. Tang Wanna was absolutely delighted with little Leilei. Lin Shu hadn't driven herself. The chauffeur had brought her over. Chin's mother warmly insisted she stay for lunch. She was also utterly charmed by little Leilei and immediately took her off to play, leaving Lin Shu and Tang Wanna to chat in the room by themselves. Lin Shu shared a lot of prenatal preparation tips with Tang Wanna, such as preparing a hospital bag, and essentially passed on all her own childbirth experiences. In the afternoon, when Lin Shu was about to leave, little Leilei was reluctant to go and started crying in her mother's arms. Chin's mother kept urging Lin Shu to stay for dinner, saying that Tang Chen could come over with Chin Hao after work later. However, thinking of Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunyor, the 2 little ones, Lin Shu decided to leave. She had promised to pick them up from school when she dropped them off in the morning. She ended up carrying little Leilei back and called the driver in advance to come pick her up. After giving birth, Tang Chen had assigned his own driver to her, not allowing her to drive. Her driving skills weren't great anyway, and now that she often had to take the children out, it was more convenient to use the driver. Not long after Lin Shu left, Tang Wanna received a WeChat message from Ding Chen, a photo of 3rd brother in a meeting, with a girl sitting next to him, staring at him dreamily. Ding Chen added a message after the photo, "Wanna, this new girl in the department has been acting all sweet and fake in the office lately. Always taking documents to see President Chin. I'm telling you, you need to be careful. These young girls nowadays are way too bold. Even if you don't provoke them, they'll just throw themselves at him." Ding Chen told her a lot about the green tea incidents that had happened in the office since this new girl arrived. She said the new girl had charmed all the men in the office, making them rush to help her with everything. She also mentioned that the new girl graduated from some prestigious foreign university and had an impressive academic background. Tang Wanna carefully looked at the photos Ding Chen had sent. Although 3rd brother's gaze wasn't fixed on the new girl, she still felt a heavy, suffocating sensation in her heart. For dinner, it was just her with Mother Chin and Father Chin. Ching hadn't returned, and Chin Hao was working overtime. She ate very little. So little that even Mother Chin noticed something was off. Thinking she might be unwell, Tang Wanna went along with Mother Chin's concern, saying she would go back to her room to rest, and then went upstairs. When Chin Hao returned late from work, Mother Chin quickly reported to her son that Wanna wasn't feeling well. Without even taking time to eat, Chin Hao went upstairs to their room and saw a small figure curled up on the bed, only her little face visible. He tiptoed over and had just sat down on the edge of the bed when Tang Wanna opened her eyes. "Did I wake you? Mom said you weren't feeling well and didn't eat much at dinner. Where do you feel unwell? Should we go to the hospital for a checkup?" Chin Hao asked softly. Tang Wanna pouted and shook her head. She trusted third brother, and since it was a baseless matter, she didn't want to throw a tantrum over nothing. Yet, she still felt upset inside. "It's nothing. Probably just didn't sleep well. I'll be fine after resting. You haven't had dinner yet, right? Go eat first." Tang Wanna still didn't say anything. Chin Hao reached out and touched her forehead to confirm she didn't have a fever before standing up. "Then I'll go eat first and come back to accompany you right after, okay?" Chin Hao stood up, walked out of the room, and gently closed the door before going back downstairs to finish his meal. Chin's mother saw him coming downstairs and hurried over to ask about Wanna's condition. "It's nothing. She doesn't have a fever, probably just didn't sleep well," Chin Hao said. "Xiao Shu came by today, probably because her nap was a bit shorter than usual." Chin's mother thought for a moment and said, "That seemed to be the only possibility." Chin Hao had been a little worried, but hearing his mother say that actually put him more at ease. So his sister-in-law had been here. It might really just be that she hadn't slept well. After finishing dinner, when Chin Hao returned to the room, he saw that Tang Wanna was already asleep. He quickly took a shower and lay down on the bed, thinking to himself that once he was done with this busy period, he would take Tang Wanna for a short trip around the area before she gave birth. Chapter 513, An unexpected conversation in the elevator. Ding Chen would occasionally report the company's situation to Tang Wanna, mainly focusing on the behavior of that green tea girl and third brother's indifferent reactions. One day, Qin Qing came home early, and Tang Wanna couldn't resist pulling her aside to share the glorious deeds of the newly hired girl in the project department. Upon hearing that the girl actually had the audacity to try to hook up with her own brother, Qin Qing slapped her thigh and said, "I've seen plenty of people like her. You should go to the company and assert your status as the rightful wife, so she knows exactly what role she's playing." Encouraged by Qin Qing, Tang Wanna told Qin's mother the next day that staying at home all day wasn't good and she wanted to go out for a walk. She mentioned that it had been a long time since she last visited the company and she wanted to see it, and also bring lunch to third brother. Upon hearing this, Qin's mother immediately assumed that Wanna missed her husband. She promptly arranged for a driver and a car, found a large thermal container, packed the meals, and said with a smile, "I've packed enough for two. Take it to the company and have lunch with Xiao Hao. Don't worry, I definitely won't tell him in advance. He'll be so surprised when you bring him lunch." After saying this, Qin's mother even winked. Tang Wanna felt a bit shy, her cheeks slightly flushed as she took the thermal container and said, "Thank you, Mom." Before quickly getting into the car, after being reminded by Qin's mother, she didn't tell Qin Hao in advance that she was going to the company, genuinely wanting to surprise him. After the driver dropped her off at the entrance of JK Group, Tang Wanna asked him to leave first. She planned to stay at the company for a while in the afternoon and wait for her third brother to finish work so they could go back together, carrying the thermal container and with her belly slightly protruding. She walked into the familiar building. There was still half an hour until lunchtime, so there weren't many people in the lobby. The receptionist was still the same young lady as before, though there was a young girl beside her, likely a new intern who had just joined this year. The receptionist recognized her, watching her walk in. The receptionist widened her eyes and greeted her warmly, sweetly saying that aside from her belly getting bigger, she hadn't changed at all. Women love to hear compliments, and Tang Wanna was no exception. Hearing the receptionist's words, she walked into the elevator with a beaming smile. The elevator stopped on the third floor, and several people got in. They weren't from the project department, and Tang Wanna only found them somewhat familiar but didn't initiate a greeting. She moved toward the corner, holding the thermal container with one hand and lightly protecting her belly with the other. The elevator stopped again on the 10th floor, and two girls walked in, holding coffee and chatting and laughing. She had heard from Ding Chen before that the previously empty office on the 10th floor had been renovated into a cafe, offering free coffee and afternoon tea for employees as a staff benefit. Ding Chen mentioned that she goes there every day for a cup of coffee and a small chocolate cake. saying the cake is incredibly delicious and that Tang Wanna must try it when she returns to work. Tang Wanna didn't pay much attention to the two people who came in carrying coffee. When the elevator stopped on the 10th floor, she remembered the chocolate cake Ding Chen had mentioned and decided she must come try it in the afternoon. At that moment, the two girls who had entered the elevator on the 10th floor with coffee cups in hand started chatting. Tang Wanna unintentionally overheard someone openly spying on her husband. "Qianqian, have you found out President Qin's preferences?" a voice asked. Upon hearing President Qin, Tang Wanna instinctively pricked up her ears. "Of course, there's nothing I can't handle," the other tall girl replied confidently. Tang Wanna looked up at the two of them, one tall, one short. The moment she raised her head, she caught a glimpse of the taller girl's profile. Wasn't that the new intern from the photo Ding Chen had sent her? The two continued talking, and Tang Wanna strained her ears, afraid she might miss something. "But I've heard everyone say that President Qin treats his wife very well. She used to work in the project team before she got pregnant, and everyone says she's really nice," the shorter girl said. "What does that matter? There isn't a man in this world who doesn't stray, if there is. It's just that the temptation isn't strong enough. Besides, his wife is pregnant, her figure must have changed, and her needs in that area." The taller girl spoke bluntly. The elevator reached the 15th floor, and the two walked out, still talking. Tang Wanna felt her entire worldview had been shaken. Are girls these days so bold, knowing someone is married with a wife, yet deliberately throwing themselves at him to seduce him? It really infuriated her. And to think she was said to be a graduate of a prestigious university. It was simply an insult to all the education she had received over the years. It seems that cultural level and moral standards really can't be equated. How dare she so blatantly try to seduce her superior, someone else's husband? It was infuriating. How could such a person have been hired into the company? The elevator arrived on the 16th floor. Tang Wanna, carrying a thermal lunchbox, stormed out so quickly that the remaining people in the elevator didn't even realize she was President Qin's wife. As soon as Tang Wanna stepped into the 16th floor office area, Qin Hao's secretary spotted her. Secretary Zhao was a shrewd woman. The moment she saw Tang Wanna enter, she immediately went up to greet her, showering her with compliments as usual. She also hinted, "Wanna, even though you're pregnant, you haven't changed a bit, you're still so beautiful. You should come to the company more often, everyone misses you. And it would also let the new interns in the project team see how outstanding our President Qin's wife is." Tang Wanna replied with a smile, "Thank you, Sister Zhao. I'll definitely come more often in the future." Sister Zhao, having been with the company for many years, could naturally see through that intern's tricks at a glance. Although President Qin completely ignored her, young girls these days really have their methods. Always finding excuses like delivering documents or reporting work to come upstairs. She had subtly warned her before, but she never expected the girl to openly parade her attempts to seduce a married man. Unfortunately, there was nothing wrong with her work performance, and President Qin hadn't caused any trouble over it. Moreover, she acted so obediently in front of President Qin that as subordinates, they couldn't say much. Still, Sister Zhao had gone to the HR director to inquire about her background. It turned out she was indeed a regular intern recruited through campus hiring, with no special connections. Sister Zhao thought the girl simply had ill intentions. Such a great opportunity to enter JK through campus recruitment, yet instead of focusing on working hard and striving to stay after the internship, she was full of ideas about taking shortcuts. Women like her are seen as a threat by all married women and are generally disliked. They only manage to please some men. Seeing her carrying a thermal lunchbox, Sister Zhao smiled and said, "It looks like President Qin's lunch will be taken care of by our secretarial center today. I didn't know you were coming, so I already ordered lunch for him," Sister Zhao said with a smile. "I just decided on the spur of the moment. Sorry for making your work more complicated," Tang Wanna said. After all, coming at this hour meant that Third Brother's lunch must have already been ordered in advance. What's so hard about this? They get a free meal just for participating. The girls will definitely be happy. I'll thank President Qin on their behalf in advance. Sister Zhao, after all, is the head of the Secretarial Center and knows how to speak well. You go find President Qin. I won't keep you two lovebirds from having lunch together any longer. Tang Wanna smiled, picked up the thermal lunchbox, and headed toward Qin Hao's office. Chapter 514. The intern bursts in. The door to Qin Hao's office was closed. Tang Wanna raised her hand and gently knocked twice. Then, she heard a familiar, deep voice from inside, briefly saying, "Come in." Tang Wanna pushed the door open and walked in, seeing Qin Hao still buried in his documents without looking up, completely absorbed. Some sunlight streamed in through the window, casting a warm, winter glow on his back. She watched as her third brother seemed like a Prince Charming emerging from the light. Tang Wanna quietly approached Qin Hao's desk, smiling at him without saying a word. Qin Hao, engrossed in reviewing the documents, heard no sound and felt puzzled. He had just heard a knock and said, "Come in," so why had no one entered? If someone had knocked on the wrong door, he would need to have a serious talk with the Secretarial Department. Such a situation must not happen again. Then, frowning slightly, he lifted his head, seeing the person standing before him, wearing a large down jacket, holding a thermal container, and sporting a beret, smiling radiantly at him. He froze instantly, his handsome eyes fixed intently on Tang Wanna. Seeing his reaction, Tang Wanna's smile widened even more, and the anger she had felt earlier for someone else vanished immediately. She waved a hand in front of Qin Hao and called out sweetly, "Husband." Qin Hao, having snapped back to reality, was overwhelmed with immense joy. He excitedly stood up from behind his desk, strode over to Tang Wanna, his eyes completely filled with her image. "Honey, what brings you here? How did you get here? Why didn't you call me in advance? Is it cold outside? Did you get chilled? Good thing you wore a hat, or the wind might have blown right through your head." Qin Hao fired off a string of questions in one breath, his eyes brimming with tender affection. Tang Wanna felt a sweet warmth in her heart as she listened to his rapid-fire inquiries. "I came to bring you lunch. Staying at home every day is quite boring. The driver brought me, and I asked him to go back first," Tang Wanna replied with a smile. Then raised the thermal lunchbox in her hand and handed it to Qin Hao. Qin Hao took the lunchbox and led Tang Wanna toward the coffee table in the reception area, their former exclusive dining spot. Since Tang Wanna had been resting at home, he had been eating simple meals at his desk alone, so sitting at this table again brought back a wave of nostalgia. As Qin Hao unpacked the dishes from the thermal container, he realized there was a generous amount of food, with soup at the bottom. Seeing so much rice and dishes, he looked up at Tang Wanna and asked, "Did you come over without eating either?" Tang Wanna nodded and said in a coquettish tone, I want to eat with you." Qin Hao's heart instantly melted. "Next time, have a little something to tide you over first. Don't let yourself go hungry." "Okay, I brought some snacks in my bag. So I won't go hungry." Tang Wanna started to pick up her chopsticks and spoon, while Qin Hao first served her a bowl of soup. "Have some soup first." Tang Wanna took the bowl with a smile and began to drink. "I had just taken a sip when an uninvited guest barged in." Tang Wanna was sitting with her back to the door of Qin Hao's office, so she didn't see who had entered. It was only when the person spoke that she recognized the intern who had been eyeing third brother for a long time in the elevator. "President Qin, there's a document that requires your signature." The intern's voice cooed sweetly. Qin Hao looked up, his brow slightly furrowed, his tone was less than pleasant. As he and Wanna were about to have lunch, and it was almost 12 o'clock, the sudden intrusion had interrupted their cozy moment, and he was annoyed. "Didn't the HR department train you to knock before entering a supervisor's office?" A pitiful, delicate voice sounded, making even Tang Wanna, a woman, feel that third brother had spoken too harshly just now. "Sorry, President Qin. I was a bit anxious just now. I was watching the door, and came in directly." Tang Wanna couldn't help but look back. The girl had tears welling up in her eyes, biting her lower lip, looking delicate and on the verge of crying. Forget men, even she, as a woman, felt she looked somewhat pitiful. Qin Hao didn't want to lose his temper at this moment, especially since his wife was there. It wouldn't be good for prenatal education. He coldly interrupted her and said, "All right, be more careful next time. Leave the documents on the table." I'll look at them later. After saying that, he didn't look at the intern anymore and instead served Tang Wanna some rice, handing it to her. Tang Wanna didn't say anything and just focused on eating. She had enough confidence in herself and in third brother. She had come purely to see for herself how green tea the intern Ding Chen had described really was. Who would have thought that even such an obvious dismissal wouldn't make her leave? She was still standing there holding the documents, looking troubled, and continued speaking to Qin Hao, President Qin. But, the manager said the documents are somewhat urgent. Could you please sign them for me now? I'm afraid I'll get scolded when I go back. Qin Hao's frown deepened, and when he looked up again, his expression was even worse. The intern, as if unable to read the room, put on a pitiful act and remained standing beside them. Qin Hao reached out to take the folder and stood up to get a pen. As he went to fetch the pen, the intern followed closely behind, pretending to be familiar with him as she said, "Mr. Qin, so you like chicken soup? I know a place that serves really good pork stomach and chicken. Would you like me to recommend it to you?" Qin Hao picked up the pen and quickly signed the document. "No need, you can leave now. In the future, tell your manager not to bring me documents during lunchtime," he thought to himself. This intern must be out of her mind. Not only does she have no sense of awareness, but she's also full of herself. Which eye of hers saw that I like chicken? The chicken soup is my wife's thing. Besides, is there any good restaurant in Jiangcheng that we don't know about? Even if we don't know, Xiao Wu knows them all. Who needs her recommendations? The intern took the document without a hint of embarrassment on her face and even smiled as she said, "Thank you, Mr. Qin." It was as if she had been given special treatment. Then, as she took the document, she clumsily pretended not to catch it, letting the folder fall to the ground. When she bent down to pick it up, Tang Wanna noticed her low-cut neckline and the ample cleavage. She thought to herself, she's really going all out, isn't she? Unexpectedly, she didn't say a word the entire time. The intern even gave her a dirty look before leaving. However, third brother was busy serving her food after signing the documents and didn't even glance at the intern again. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have dared to glare so openly and would have at least pretended a little. The person finally left. And Tang Wanna was truly taken aback. She never expected there to be such a shameless girl. Qin Hao sat back down on the sofa, watching Tang Wanna finish a bowl of chicken soup before serving her another bowl and placing it beside her. The tenderness and affection returned to his eyes and face, making him seem like a completely different person from when he was speaking to others earlier. Chapter 515, Public Reprimand. Tang Wanna's mood wasn't really affected. Watching her third brother carefully peel shrimp for her, she happily started eating. She ate most of the food they brought, while Qin Hao didn't eat much, constantly serving her. After peeling the shrimp, he started picking out fish bones. When Tang Wanna was almost full, she held her bowl, slowly sipping soup, and said to Qin Hao, "Honey, you should eat more. I'm really full." Qin Hao glanced at the remaining food on the table and, seeing that she had indeed eaten about the same amount as she usually did at home, picked up his own bowl and started eating. Tang Wanna watched him, her eyes shifting as if casually asking, "Who was that girl just now?" Qin Hao looked up at Tang Wanna in confusion. "Which girl just now?" Tang Wanna laughed happily and continued, "The one who came in just now to have you sign something. The quite pretty girl, just that intern from earlier." Qin Hao really did think back carefully, then tentatively asked. Tang Wanna nodded gently. Qin Hao frowned and started complaining. "Where is she pretty? Honey, has your taste in beauty been off lately?" Listening to her third brother's words, Tang Wanna's smile grew even brighter. After all, who would want to hear their husband say another girl is pretty? Tang Wanna promptly stopped the topic, not wanting to continue discussing other girls with her third brother. Originally, her third brother couldn't even remember that person. But if she kept bringing it up, it would only make him remember. After having lunch together, Tang Wanna said she wanted to stay at the company with him and go home together after work. Qin Hao was naturally overjoyed. After the meal, he took Tang Wanna to the lounge in the office cubicle for a nap. Nowadays, he also takes a half-hour nap at noon because he usually doesn't sleep deeply at night. Sometimes, Wanna gets leg cramps, and he gets up to massage her legs. waiting until she falls back asleep before he can sleep again. As a result, he doesn't get enough sleep at night, so he makes up for it during the day. Today, Tang Wanna came over, and it was just the right time to accompany him for a nap. After eating and drinking her fill, Tang Wanna started feeling drowsy. Yawning, she followed Qin Hao into the lounge. Once she lay down on the bed, Qin Hao also lay down behind her, holding her in his arms. Both of them fell asleep quite quickly. Having someone familiar by their side made them feel at ease and sleep soundly. As the two were sleeping groggily, they heard a knocking sound from the office door outside. Tang Wanna frowned, let out a soft groan, and shifted slightly, showing signs of annoyance at being disturbed. Qin Hao immediately propped himself up and whispered soothingly, "Be good, keep sleeping, I'll go check." Hearing his voice, Tang Wanna drifted back into a deep sleep. Qin Hao got up and put on his suit jacket. Then opened the door of the lounge and walked out. Just as he stepped out of the lounge, he heard the voices of two girls talking outside the office door. He glanced at his watch. There were still 2 minutes left before the afternoon work started. His expression was grim, his brows deeply furrowed. Outside the door were a young woman from the secretarial office and the intern from the project team who had just barged into Qin Hao's office. The young woman from the secretarial office was also an intern from the same batch. She had been trying to stop anyone from disturbing Qin Hao, but unexpectedly encountered someone so arrogant and aggressive who forced her way through. She almost cried from anxiety because Sister Zhao had specifically instructed them that Mrs. Qin had come to visit the CEO today and was having dinner with him. They were told to keep an eye out and not let anyone disturb him until Qin Hao opened the door himself. But then this person from the project team showed up, insisting that her documents were urgent and she had to go in right away. "I'm sorry, but please leave for now. President Qin is still resting," the young woman from the secretarial office said, making a gesture for the other to leave. The intern looked down at her with an air of superiority and said arrogantly, "I know, but my documents are very urgent. President Qin won't blame me." The secretarial intern had long been annoyed by her. Unaware of the truth, she really thought this intern had hooked up with President Qin. Deep down, she couldn't believe that President Qin, who usually seemed so upright, would abuse his power and give special treatment to someone like this. Moreover, she had heard that President Qin's wife was pregnant, which made her even more disdainful. Qin Hao stood inside and suddenly opened the office door with a loud clatter. The young woman in the secretary's office was startled, her body trembling as she froze in place. The other party involved in the argument, as if performing a Sichuan opera face change, instantly put on a pitiful expression, biting her lower lip as if she had been terribly wronged. Gone was the haughty demeanor she had displayed just moments before. The young woman from the secretary's office was innocent and straightforward, a well-behaved student type. Seeing the other person like this and knowing she had managed to cozy up to President Qin, she was certain she would be reprimanded by him. With a look of resignation, she stood there, waiting to be scolded. Qin Hao pulled open the door and saw two interns standing outside his office. Frowning, his face cold and stern, he said sharply, "Don't you have work to do? What are you arguing about here?" The young woman from the secretary's office was about to explain when the other person cut her off. The aggrieved expression and tone were so exaggerated that even she, as a woman, couldn't help but feel goosebumps. "President Qin, it's just that this document is urgent and needs your review. I came over because it's almost time to start work, but the young lady from the secretary's office kept stopping me from coming." The young lady in the secretary's office couldn't help but roll her eyes on the spot when she heard her being called little sister, feeling extremely annoyed. What little sister? They were both interns who joined at the same time. How did she become the little sister? Moreover, she was already silently mourning her internship career, expecting to be fired that very day. Who told her to mess with the boss's secret lover? The young lady stood with her back straight, waiting for Qin Hao's decision. She felt she had done nothing wrong. If he asked her to leave, she wouldn't hesitate for a minute and would go immediately. There was no point in serving such a leader with questionable morals and character. Qin Hao had no idea that, in just a few short minutes, he had already taken on such an image in the young lady's mind. He waited coldly for the intern from the project department to finish speaking, and the temper he had been holding back all noon erupted. He scolded her. "Did you really not receive any training from the HR department when you joined? Have you studied the employee handbook of JK Group? If not, go back to HR and study it. If you have studied it and still repeatedly break the rules, then you can leave. JK doesn't need employees like you. He has always been gentle and refined. Although junior employees in the company don't interact with him much, they all say he is much easier to get along with than President Tang and Mo Zie. This is because he usually only points out others' mistakes seriously and rarely resorts to direct reprimands." The young women in the secretarial office were even more stunned. President Qin didn't seem to be the kind of person they had imagined. Chapter 516. Criticized one by one. After finishing his reprimand, Qin Hao closed the office door, walked back to his desk, sat down, and called the project manager, asking him to come to his office. The intern from the project team, her eyes slightly red, was holding a folder and heading downstairs. Just as she stepped out of the elevator, she ran into the project manager, who was on his way upstairs. Normally, she was very sweet-talking and proactive around the project manager, especially when it came to running errands and delivering documents. The young girl always eagerly volunteered for such tasks. The project manager, being somewhat older, was quite taken with this attitude. Seeing her red-eyed, he asked with concern, "Oh, what's wrong with our Qianqian? Why are you crying? Weren't you just delivering documents to Manager Qin?" The intern seemed hesitant to speak, but in the end, she deliberately said, "I'm fine." Those around her thought Manager Qin must have done something to her. The female colleagues rolled their eyes, while the male colleagues, unaware of the situation, all stepped forward to comfort her. This is why there's a common joke online: only women can spot a green tea girl. While men are easily fooled and led by the nose, the project manager didn't linger and hurriedly took the elevator upstairs. Qin Hao had already started working. When the project manager entered, he noticed Qin Hao's expression was off and thought to himself, "Indeed, Boss Qin is in a bad mood today." Even the intern was scolded to tears. Knowing Qin Hao's character well, having worked with him for many years, he didn't think much else of it. He nervously walked over, a smile on his face, and cautiously said, "Boss Qin, you asked for me." Qin Hao looked up from the pile of documents and said coldly, "From now on, have someone else deliver the project team's documents." The project manager still didn't understand. Did Qianqian do something wrong? Qin Hao frowned deeply. Staring at the project manager grew even more flustered under his sharp gaze. The lower-level employees all said that President Qin was gentle and refined, always amiable and pleasant. However, only the few managers who frequently interacted with him knew that when President Qin got angry, he was even more terrifying than President Tang. Moreover, he had no tolerance for incompetence. Being highly capable himself, he held his subordinates to very high standards. The project manager wondered how simply delivering a document had managed to anger President Qin. "Qianqian is the intern who just delivered the document." The project manager mustered the courage to explain. Qin Hao sneered and immediately began to scold. Did the HR department even screen candidates properly? They're hiring people with pig brains. And how have you been mentoring her? Bringing some useless document and claiming it's urgent. If it's so urgent, why didn't you deliver it yourself? She barged in without even knocking. "Is my office a vegetable market?" The project manager was taken aback. He truly hadn't expected that intern, who usually seemed highly capable and emotionally intelligent, to do something like this. Bowing his head, he kept nodding and said, "I'm sorry, President Qin. I'll be more careful when assigning tasks in the future. Don't let there be a next time. I don't want to see her in my office again," Qin Hao said directly. He then pressed the intercom button on his desk phone and called the secretary center. "Come here for a moment." Soon, Sister Zhao also arrived. When Sister Zhao returned to the office at noon, she had already heard from the young staff about the intern causing trouble again during lunch. At this point, she figured President Qin was likely going to lose his temper and reprimand someone. Sister Zhao nodded at the project manager as a greeting, then respectfully addressed Qin Hao, "President Qin, Qin Hao had been doing his best to suppress his anger, especially since the young girl was still sleeping inside. He looked up at Sister Zhao and instructed, "From now on, make sure the secretary center arranges for 2 more people to stay in the office during lunch. Don't let an intern do all your work. What's the point of having so many people then?" Sister Zhao was well aware that although the intern from the project team had initiated the incident at noon, her department bore significant responsibility. She quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, President Qin, it won't happen again." Qin Hao glanced at the 2 of them and said, "Both of you, step out. I won't be seeing any visitors this afternoon. If there's anything, we'll discuss it tomorrow." Having just been reprimanded, the 2 nodded in unison and replied simultaneously, "Understood, President Qin." Then they hurriedly exited. The 2 of them left Qin Hao's office together. The project manager, still somewhat confused by the scolding, was quite familiar with Sister Zhao. They had joined the company around the same time and both worked under Qin Hao. So they occasionally chatted with each other. "Why is Manager Qin so angry at an intern today?" The project manager stroked his chin as he spoke, pondering the situation. After all, Manager Qin is usually quite generous and considerate toward junior employees, and it's rare to see him this furious over a minor issue. Sister Zhao glanced at him, shook her head, and continued walking, thinking to herself, Men. The project manager hurried to catch up. "Hey, you must know the inside story. Hurry up and tell me." "I walked right into that one," Sister Zhao deliberately replied. "Do you think you're the only one who got scolded? I got my share too." Then she added silently, "It's all because of that intern from your department. What exactly happened today?" The project manager pressed. Sister Zhao thought it over and decided she should remind her old colleague to avoid any potential trouble. She leaned in and quietly told the project manager about the intern from the project team who had tried to act special earlier that day. She concluded by saying, "Do you know why Mr. Qin was so angry? Today, Wanna came to bring him lunch, and your intern barged right in. Mr. Qin and his wife hadn't even finished their lunch break, and then she showed up again. Our young colleague tried to stop her but couldn't. How could Mr. Qin not be furious?" The project manager finally understood. Muttering to himself, "I didn't say she had to rush, I just told her to get Mr. Qin's signature when he was free this afternoon. She usually seems so sharp, how could she be so clueless today?" Sister Zhao couldn't help but roll her eyes. "I've seen plenty of this kind of green tea behavior from young girls. It might charm you guys and make you hover around her, but go ask the girls in your department if any of them actually enjoy working with her. Don't say I didn't warn you." That girl's intentions are practically written on her forehead. She's always finding excuses to come upstairs to deliver documents, and she's been to Mr. Qin's office countless times. Every time, she stops by our department to chat for a bit, and her questions are always about Mr. Qin's personal life. "I've already warned everyone in our department not to reveal anything. It's up to you to handle things on your end. Don't let a fresh out-of-school girl manipulate you." Sister Zhao couldn't have been more direct. After saying her piece, she strode back to her office in her high heels. The project manager was someone who cherished his wife, so Sister Zhao wasn't worried about him causing any issues. Besides, that girl was shrewd. From the moment she arrived, she had her sights set on winning over their boss. As for her direct supervisor, she'd probably just use him to her advantage. Chapter 517. Feeling uncomfortable. As soon as Sister Zhao and the project manager left, Tang Wanna yawned and pushed open the door of the break room to come out. She wasn't wearing her thin down jacket, and since the air conditioning was on everywhere in the company, it wasn't cold, so she walked out wearing the dress set she had on underneath, which clearly showed her noticeably bulging belly. Giving off a strong pregnant vibe, Qin Hao turned his head at the sound, his originally cold and furrowed brow instantly softening. With a smile on his lips and a gleam in his eyes, he walked toward Tang Wanna. "Why are you awake? Were you woken up by the noise, or is the little one being naughty and bothering mommy?" He remembered that when she rested and he accompanied her for a nap, she usually slept for quite a long time. Today, she must have been woken up by those clueless interns. Tang Wanna looked somewhat dazed and sleepy, squinting her eyes as she walked with Qin Hao toward the sofa. Indeed, she had woken up not long after Qin Hao got up. Then, hearing him scolding someone in the office, she felt too embarrassed to come out of the break room. It wasn't until everyone else had left that she finally stepped out. "Aren't you going to sleep a little longer? Is the little one behaving well today?" Qin Hao pulled Tang Wanna to sit with him on the sofa. Looking at her belly with loving eyes, Tang Wanna shook her head. "No, I can't sleep anymore. I'll get you some fresh milk. Have some first. I have a meeting this afternoon and might not be able to go home until after work." Qin Hao stood up and went to the refrigerator to get fresh milk for Tang Wanna. It turned out that the fresh milk in his refrigerator was all prepared for her. After Tang Wanna got pregnant and stopped coming to the company, there were a few bottles left in the fridge, which he ended up drinking. Later, he got used to it and continued to keep it stocked regularly. He brought her the strawberry-flavored fresh milk she loved the most. Tang Wanna's eyes lit up. She thought she wouldn't be able to have any this time. She didn't know that third brother had also gotten into the habit of drinking a bottle of fresh milk every day. She took the milk bottle, which he had already unscrewed the cap from, and took a sip. A bit of milk clung to the corner of her mouth, making her look both dazed and adorable. She didn't seem like someone who was already married and about to become a mother, more like a young girl. Qin Hao was momentarily captivated, his mind flashing back to the image of Tang Wanna in her middle school uniform, carrying a backpack, looking young and tender. Back then, whenever she saw him, she would always lower her head, quickly greet him, and then run off. Tang Wanna, feeling the intensity of her third brother's gaze, quickly said, "Honey, I'm going to take a walk around the company. You go ahead with your work, alright? Don't wander off. If you get tired, go lie down and rest on the bed in the lounge." Qin Hao replied, his voice noticeably hoarser, as he added with some concern, "I know, I'm not a child anymore. I'm very familiar with the company." Tang Wanna answered with a cheerful smile, "Be careful with your stomach. Stay away from crowded places." Qin Hao still wasn't quite at ease and added another reminder, "Got it? Got it." Tang Wanna felt that her third brother was really starting to show the potential of an old man. He was never at ease with whatever she did and kept nagging. She stood up, took the fresh milk, and walked out of Qin Hao's office with her belly protruding. Qin Hao watched her slowly walk away, her figure reflected in the glass until she completely disappeared from sight. Only then did he snap back to reality with a slight smile and return to work. And his efficiency turned out to be surprisingly high. Tang Wanna first went to the top floor, to Tang Echen's office, to greet her eldest brother. The people in the top-floor secretarial office all knew her. After all, when she and her third brother made their relationship public, it was such a high-profile and sensational event, and everyone had received red envelopes. So, when they saw her arrive, they were all very warm and welcoming. After briefly greeting everyone, Tang Wanna went to Tang Echen's office. Tang Echen was somewhat surprised to see her at the company. "What brings you here? Just missed you, big brother," Tang Wanna said playfully. "Come on, you're definitely here to see Lao-san and just happened to drop by to see me, right?" Tang Echen bluntly laughed and called Tang Wanna out. Though he wasn't actually jealous or angry, Tang Wanna grinned sheepishly at Tang Echen without denying it. She really had come specifically to see third brother and just happened to check in on her eldest brother and the others. He wasn't wrong. With such a big belly, you shouldn't be running around. Stay home and rest properly. The company is always bustling with people, and it's not safe for you to wander around like this, Tang Echen said with concern. Hearing him nag just like third brother, Tang Wanna quickly wanted to escape. As she was about to leave, Tang Echen took a bag out of a drawer and handed it to her. Inside was a box of sea cucumbers and some unopened prenatal vitamins that Lin Shu had given him that morning to pass on to Qin Hao, who would then bring them home for Wanna after work. He hadn't expected Wanna to come to the company today, so he just gave her the bag directly. "Your sister-in-law asked me to give this to you. Originally, I was going to have Lao-san bring it home this afternoon, but since you're here, you can take it back yourself," Tang Echen said gently. Only then did Tang Wanna remember that her sister-in-law had mentioned on the phone yesterday that she had stocked up on a lot of prenatal vitamins and wanted to give them to her. She smiled and took the bag, saying to Tang Echen, "Please thank sister-in-law for me." Tang Echen affectionately patted her head, gazing at her slightly swollen belly, and couldn't help but feel how quickly time had passed. The little sister he had watched grow up was now about to become a mother. Tang-chen had a meeting to attend, so he walked out of the office with Tang Wanna. Today, neither her second brother nor her fifth brother had come to the company, and her fourth brother was also out. As a result, after leaving Tang-chen's office, Tang Wanna picked up her bag and took the elevator directly to the 15th floor. While in the elevator, she sent a WeChat message to Ding Chen, saying she had come to the company and was on her way to see her. Ding Chen didn't reply, so Tang Wanna assumed she was busy with work and decided to go find her directly. Tang Wanna took the elevator to the 15th floor. Just a few steps after exiting the elevator, she ran into the intern named Qianxian and another shorter intern who had been with her in the elevator earlier. Because of her pregnancy, she was walking very slowly. She moved aside to make way and continued on her path, carrying her things. The two people approaching were indeed the interns, full of youthful energy, chatting and laughing as they walked by. As they passed Tang Wanna, she overheard their conversation. The shorter girl asked, "Qianxian, did you go to see President Qin today?" The shy girl named Qianxian replied, "Yes, the person in the secretary's office stopped me, and I even got scolded by President Qin." The shorter girl flattered, "President Qin is really good to you. You're so beautiful, you'll definitely be able to stay after the internship ends." "Oh, these kinds of things shouldn't be talked about carelessly," the girl named Qianxian said deliberately, mixing truth with falsehood. Tang Wanna's heart sank, and she suddenly felt gloomy every time she encountered this girl. She was discussing her husband with others. That kind of blatant prying made her feel extremely uncomfortable. However, having been protected by her older brothers while growing up in this regard, and with Qingqing usually standing up for her, she really didn't know how to handle the situation at the moment. Chapter 518. Going to the 15th floor, Tang Wanna walked past two energetic interns and stepped into the familiar office. Her frustration dissipated a little. This was her familiar battlefield, the place where she had grown while following in third brother's footsteps. As she looked around at everything she knew so well, her confidence seemed to return somewhat. From a distance, she saw Ding Chen wearing glasses, her eyes fixed intently on the computer screen. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she manipulated the mouse, clearly working on drafting a design. A few people were scattered at other desks, some of whom looked unfamiliar, and most colleagues were not at their workstations. Tang Wanna quietly walked up behind Ding Chen and called out with a smile, "Chen, I'm here." Ding Chen was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice until Tang Wanna stood behind her and spoke. She then jumped up with a scream, her face lighting up with surprise. "Ah, Wanna, when did you get here? Why didn't you tell me in advance? I sent you a WeChat message, and you didn't reply." Tang Wanna said with a deliberately aggrieved tone, "How could I not reply to your WeChat? Believe me, if that ever happens, it's definitely because I didn't see it." Ding Chen explained seriously, taking out his phone to check the messages. "You sent it 5 minutes ago. You were probably already in the elevator when you remembered to message me." After confirming the time of the message, he became more confident in his defense. This made Tang Wanna unable to hold back a grin. But she still said, "I came before lunchtime, had a meal upstairs, and rested for a while." "I see, you came to see President Qin and just happened to drop by to visit a lonely soul like me," Ding Chen teased with a laugh. Tang Wanna felt a bit embarrassed, as if she had really come to catch someone in the act, making her motives seem impure. "Where is everyone else?" Tang Wanna asked. "Some are in meetings, others are at the construction site. That's why I said I'm all alone here." Ding Chen took a pack of snacks from her drawer and handed it to Tang Wanna. "Try this new stock I got. Let's see if the little one in your belly likes it." Ding Chen's drawer was always filled with snacks. In the past, when Tang Wanna felt hungry in the afternoon, she would go to Ding Chen's desk to find something to eat. And they were all kinds of unique snacks, even more varied than those in a convenience store. Tang Wanna opened the package and started eating. It was slightly spicy, very chewy, and seemed to be made of tofu. The taste was quite good. As she ate, she asked, "Has the company hired many new interns recently? I see a lot of unfamiliar faces." I haven't been to work for over half a year, so I don't recognize many people anymore. Ding Chen also opened a pack of snacks and started eating. Sitting directly on the table with a somewhat boss-like demeanor, she had given her cushioned chair to Tang Wanna to sit in. Tang Wanna's workstation was still reserved. But she had taken most of her personal belongings home. Since she wasn't around, her desk had been piled high with documents by other colleagues. When the interns came in, all the other seats were taken, leaving only her spot empty. Tang Wanna came in and didn't seem to mind the mess. After all, she didn't work in the office, and the project department had a lot of documents. For convenience, she used to pile them up right by her feet, stacking them high. They would only be sent back to the archives when it was time for filing. Ding Chen nodded in response to her question. Yes, quite a few people joined this batch, but I heard that at most only 1/3 of them will be kept after the internship period ends, so most people leave once their internship is over. Tang Wanna nodded thoughtfully, recalling the conversation she overheard between two people in the hallway when she came in, if the assessment was fair and impartial. She wondered if the one named Qianqian would be able to stay. Ding Chen suddenly leaned close to Tang Wanna's ear and whispered, "Did you see that green tea intern I told you about upstairs today? Who is that Qianqian?" Tang Wanna tilted her head and asked. Ding Chen rolled her eyes. "What Qianqian? Are you that familiar with her? She's the kind of woman who's always looking for opportunities to flirt with your husband. Calling her a green tea is already being polite. She's a downright vixen. Understand, Miss Tang, please show some of that main wife authority and put her in her place today. Let her see exactly how much she's worth." Tang Wanna looked at Ding Chen with a smile. She felt that Ding Chen sometimes really resembled Qingqing. Both had a strong sense of justice, were straightforward, dared to speak their minds, and were carefree and forgiving. Getting along with someone like that suited her perfectly. She had never liked putting much effort into social interactions and couldn't handle all the complexities. She considered herself very lucky, having Qingqing by her side since childhood and now meeting a good friend like Ding Chen at work. She must have done a lot of good deeds in her past life. "You're still smiling. What did you come here for today? Your goal is to drag President Qin around and flaunt your affection all over the company, so everyone can see, especially those newcomers," Ding Chen said, deliberately putting on a fierce tone. "I believe third brother wouldn't do that," Tang Wanna said. "I also trust President Qin's character, but we can't stop others from trying to climb the ladder by pulling some disgusting stunts. Wouldn't that make you uncomfortable?" Ding Chen hit the nail on the head. Tang Wanna felt exposed. Indeed, she was quite uncomfortable. Then how do we show off? She couldn't just drag her husband around the company and announce he was her husband. Could she? Isn't it simple? Go find your husband. He has a talent for showing affection. Trust me, back in the day, I was fed up with all the lovey-dovey moments between you two, Ding Chen said half-jokingly. Tang Wanna fell silent. She couldn't very well tell third brother that she came today because she heard someone was planning to seduce him. So she came to assert her dominance. That was a bit hard to say out loud. Besides, third brother didn't have that intention in the first place. It was all just hearsay. Given third brother's status, if the other party deliberately stirred up trouble, it would be quite embarrassing if things escalated. The two of them quickly finished the snacks they were holding. The slightly spicy snacks had whetted Tang Wanna's appetite, so she stood up and said to Ding Chen, "Do you have time? Let me take you to the cafe downstairs for some cake. You've been raving about it for a while." Ding Chen hopped down from the table. "No matter how busy I am, I have to go. If the boss lady is treating, it would be downright disrespectful if I didn't accept." She patted her chest as she spoke, her exaggerated gestures making Tang Wanna laugh along. Ding Chen had actually finished most of her drawings before going with Tang Wanna for cake. She hadn't even gone out for lunch. Working non-stop to meet the deadline. Although she often liked to boast, her work efficiency and skills were top-notch. After all, she was recruited by JK right out of school, so she couldn't be too shabby. "Her Majesty is departing." Ding Chen extended his hand with an exaggerated bow and called out playfully. Tang Wanna beamed, placing her hand in his, and the two linked arms, laughing as they headed off to enjoy some Petty's fours. Then a shrill voice pierced the air. "What is that smell? Who's eating in the office? It's absolutely foul. My brand new outfit, which cost me thousands, is already picking up the stench. The voice was familiar. It belonged to the intern named Qianqian. Chapter 519, Narrow Paths Cross. Upon hearing the sarcastic tone, Ding Chen was so furious that she wanted to rush over and argue. What's the big deal about a piece of clothing worth a few thousand yuan, as if anyone couldn't afford it? Besides, she had only eaten 2 small snacks. Where did that weird smell come from? She had never encountered such an overly dramatic and infuriating intern before. Ding Chen couldn't hold back any longer and rolled up her sleeves, ready to charge forward. Tang Wanna quickly grabbed her. It wasn't a big deal to begin with, so she thought it would be better to let the intern have her moment of verbal victory. If things escalated, according to company policy, Ding Chen would also face punishment. Tang Wanna had a somewhat soft-hearted nature and preferred to avoid trouble whenever possible. Ding Chen was also worried about Tang Wanna, who was heavily pregnant. What if there was an accidental injury in the chaos, with Tang Wanna holding her back? She didn't dare make any sudden moves and reluctantly held back her anger. Ding Chen then linked arms with Tang Wanna and continued walking out, planning to go enjoy some cake. Little did she expect that even though she didn't provoke anyone, others would assume she was an easy target and insist on picking a fight. As the two of them passed by the interns, they didn't expect the one named Qianqian to deliberately continue her unpleasant remarks. Sister Ding Chen, I wasn't talking about you just now. I don't know who was eating, but the smell was so awful. Did you notice it too? Upon hearing this, Ding Chen felt as if she could spit blood from sheer frustration. She said coldly with a forced smile, my nose isn't that delicate. I can't smell it. Then she turned to Tang Wanna and said, let's go, Wanna. The air here really isn't very good. It's unpleasant to breathe, especially for someone like you who's pregnant. It's best to avoid it. She didn't hold back, and although her words were directed at Tang Wanna, she didn't look at her. Instead, her eyes were fixed on the two interns. The two of them immediately understood that the remark was meant for them. The shorter intern, who wasn't particularly sharp-witted, had always been easily swayed by Qianqian and followed her every command, running errands for her like a loyal sidekick. She stuck by Qianqian's side wherever she went, all because Qianqian had promised to secure a position for her, allowing her to stay on after the internship. The young woman came from a very remote province with poor living conditions and had a younger brother. She had studied hard to change her fate and establish herself in a big city. For her, the job opportunity at JK Group was incredibly precious. If she could stay, it would mean she had already taken a big step ahead of her classmates in terms of career prospects, especially since JK's employee benefits were particularly enviable. If she worked there long enough, she might even have the chance to purchase a home at a low price or even receive one for free. For someone like her, a migrant worker drifting through life, this was an enormous temptation. Although Ding Chen had been with the company for quite some time, she spent most of her time quietly working on blueprints by herself. Unlike others who took the interns along to construction sites, business negotiations, and social events, she didn't interact much with them and wasn't very familiar with them. Moreover, Qianqian often acted delicate and vulnerable around her colleagues, especially the male ones, who seemed to eat it up. This led Qianqian to believe she was above everyone else in the project team. Having been there for less than a month, she already looked down on a few more low-key seniors like Ding Chen. She always rushes to take on tasks in front of the leaders, but once she actually gets the work, she doesn't really do it herself. Relying on her good looks, she makes others do everything for her. The female colleagues have started giving her the cold shoulder. Tang Wanna and Ding Chen had only taken a couple of steps when Qianqian finally realized that Tang Wanna looked familiar. Wasn't she the girl she had run into in President Qin's office at noon, the one who had lunch with President Qin? She hadn't found out that the person she saw in their President Qin's office at noon was actually their boss's wife, President Qin's spouse. She had originally planned to go to the secretary's office during lunch to chat and gather some information. But there was only an intern there, so she didn't find out anything. She never expected Wanna to be with Ding Chen, and she thought to herself that she was probably someone sent by a partner company. Otherwise, why would she be with Ding Chen, and on such good terms? She figured they must have run into each other at noon, and President Qin had just invited her to join them for lunch. Watching them walk to the elevator, she rolled her eyes and called out to stop. Ding Chen, Sister Ding Chen. Where are you going? After all, it was just her own speculation, and she still wanted to follow along to find out more. Ding Chen turned to look at her and said coldly, Chen Qianqian, what does it have to do with you? I'm just worried that if you're out for too long and the manager asks, we can cover for you. Chen Qianqian said shamelessly, thanks, but no need. Just because I'm not at my desk doesn't mean I'm skipping work. I'm not playing hooky, so there's no need for anyone to cover for me, Ding Chen replied. Just then, the elevator arrived, and she pulled Tang Wanna inside. Not bothering to engage further with the drama queen, the two interns were left standing behind. The shorter one asked innocently, who is that pregnant woman next to Sister Ding Chen? Chen Qianqian glared fiercely at the backs of Tang Wanna and Ding Chen as they stepped into the elevator and snapped, how should I know? Probably someone sent by a partner company. Still working with such a big belly, must be poor, and her husband must be useless. With that, she turned and walked back to her workstation. The shorter in turn frowned slightly upon hearing this, as poverty was a sore spot for her too. It felt as if she had been looked down upon by her so-called good friend as well. She said nothing more and returned to her own desk. Chen Qianqian had just sat down and was about to review the proposals when the manager gave each of them 2 proposals to analyze and summarize, including their strengths and weaknesses. Chen Qianqian opened the proposal, but after reading just 2 words, she no longer wanted to continue and couldn't focus. Glancing at the person sitting diagonally in front of her, who was diligently reviewing documents, she picked up her 2 folders and walked over. She approached the shorter intern who had been with her earlier and said, Zhenzhen, have you finished your summary? The shorter girl named Zhenzhen looked up. Yes. I've finished half of it. Chen Qianqian directly placed her 2 folders on Zhenzhen's desk. Could you help me write mine as well? I have a lot of other work I can't finish. And the manager has assigned some tasks that can't be delegated to others. So, all right, the shorter girl hesitated for a moment but agreed. After all, Chen Qianqian had promised to secure her a position to stay on as a full-time employee after the internship ended. Then thank you. I'll treat you to coffee another day. Chen Qianqian casually said thank you and turned back to her workstation. She then took out her makeup bag to touch up her makeup. Once the manager and the others finished their meeting, Mr. Qin would surely return to his office. She planned to take the unsigned documents from the morning to him, giving her another chance to see him. Chen Qianqian was planning in her heart. Chapter 520, Conflict at the Cafe. Tang Wanna and Ding Chen arrived at the cafe, and Tang Wanna couldn't help but exclaim, wow, this place is decorated so comfortably, it's actually quite nice to be working now. Ding Chen replied with a smile. If you come often, you can enjoy this benefit regularly, it's just not very convenient with this big belly, Tang Wanna said as she found a sofa by the window and sat down, sinking into it. Leaning back, she added, this sofa is really nice, it makes me feel like sleeping, it really is comfortable. Ding Chen agreed, sitting down opposite her and even bouncing a few times as if testing it seriously. Normally, she would just grab a coffee or maybe a piece of cake and head back to the office, rarely taking the time to sit and slowly enjoy her drink or food. On the few occasions she did sit down to eat, she usually sat at the counter for convenience. What would you like to eat? I'll go order, since it's free. Consider it your husband's treat, Ding Chen said cheerfully. After all, their boss Qin had shares and was one of the owners, so the coffee and cakes were provided by the company for free. Essentially, it was as if boss Qin was treating them. Tang Wanna said with a smile, then I should eat a bit more. I'll have a piece of chocolate cake, a piece of mango cake, and a cup of hot milk. That should be enough. Ding Chen couldn't help but widen her eyes, then silently gave a thumbs up. It really seems like there's another one in there. You're eating a lot more than before. Your appetite has doubled. Didn't you eat enough when you had lunch with President Qin? She couldn't help but wonder. Tang Wanna felt a little embarrassed. I actually ate quite a lot at lunch too. Ding Chen was taken aback for a moment, then burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, it looks like you really are a little foodie. Ding Chen went to order. and at this time, there weren't many people in the cafe. Soon, she brought over the coffee, milk, and cake. Tang Wanna couldn't wait to pick up a small spoon, scoop a bite of chocolate cake into her mouth, and exclaimed, "It's really delicious." Then she quickly finished a piece of chocolate cake, but when eating the mango cake, she noticeably slowed down. Ding Chen had ordered a cup of coffee and a piece of chocolate cake, and she ate very slowly. The two chatted while eating, and they didn't bring up the interns again. Ding Chen told Tang Wanna about things that had happened to people she knew. When she mentioned that a very shy boy from their office was actually dating a very pretty girl from the entertainment department, Tang Wanna widened her eyes in surprise. "Really? I remember he was very shy. When he used to call me Wanna Jie, his voice was so soft that I had to lean in to hear what he was saying. Of course, it's true, it's public now. They come and go from work together, and they have lunch together too. I've run into them several times. And I heard it was the girl who pursued the boy." When Ding Chen talked about gossip, her whole demeanor became lively and spirited. "Well, aside from being easily shy, he is actually quite handsome, has a good temper, high education, and strong work skills. The only downside is that he's timid." Tang Wanna analyzed with a smile. "That's true. After all, she's the most presentable person in our project department besides Director Qin, and you have to admit, the two of them look quite good together." Ding Chen nodded. Speaking very seriously, Tang Wanna squinted at her and said, "With so many people in the company, why don't you take the initiative to find someone like the girls in the entertainment department? You're not getting any younger. Being single is great. Being single means freedom. Once I save up enough money, I'll buy a small apartment and live on my own. Nothing could be more comfortable," Ding Chen said nonchalantly. She had no plans to get married anyway. Long live singlehood. The two of them were sitting and chatting happily when, as luck would have it, Chen Qianqian and her little follower also came into the cafe. Ding Chen spotted them the moment they walked in and turned to Tang Wanna, saying, "Do you think I forgot to check the almanac before going out today? How did I run into these two again?" Tang Wanna didn't understand what she meant and followed her gaze to see the intern from earlier. Suddenly realizing what Ding Chen was referring to, "The company isn't that big, and we're in the same department. It's only natural to run into each other frequently," Tang Wanna said with a smile, unsure of how to handle the situation herself. The two of them didn't continue looking in the direction of the interns and went back to eating their cake and chatting. "You're right, I still need to work on myself. I shouldn't get so worked up the moment I see her. It's not worth getting angry over people who don't matter," Ding Chen said, taking an exaggerated deep breath that made Tang Wanna laugh. The two were chatting happily when an untimely voice interrupted. "Ding Chen, what a coincidence. So you came to the cafe." Ding Chen and Tang Wanna immediately wiped the smiles off their faces and turned to look. Standing nearby were two interns who had just entered, each holding a cup of coffee. Before Tang Wanna could say anything, Chen Qianqian directly sat down on the sofa next to Tang Wanna, acting as if she were very familiar with them, and asked, "Ding Chen, is this a company partner? I don't think we've worked with them before." Ding Chen had just vowed not to bother with such people, but she was immediately proven wrong. She was so angry. This person really had thick skin, who gave her permission to sit down. There were plenty of other seats nearby, yet she insisted on squeezing in with them. It was clearly intentional to annoy them. Ding Chen kept rolling her eyes at her, but Tang Wanna actually admired this person's mental fortitude. She kept smiling as if she couldn't see Ding Chen's disdain and dislike for her. "What's it to you?" Ding Chen's tone was unfriendly as she continued eating her cake by herself, showing no intention of answering her. The shorter girl didn't say anything, just sat down awkwardly beside Ding Chen. Seeing that Ding Chen was ignoring her, Chen Qianqian turned to look at Tang Wanna. "Sister, which partner company are you from? You're still working while pregnant, that must be so hard. When I find a husband in the future, I'll definitely look for someone who knows how to take care of me. If you're pregnant, you should rest at home, otherwise, what's the point of having a husband, don't you think?" Tang Wanna was completely baffled. She hadn't done anything, yet somehow she was being looked down upon. Before she could say anything, Ding Chen couldn't hold back any longer and abruptly stood up, pointing at Chen Qianqian's nose and raising her voice. Chen Qianqian. I've put up with you for a long time, stop pretending in front of me, keep your fake sweet talk to yourself, I'm not buying it, take your coffee and get out of here, stop being so disgusting. Do you even know who her husband is? You're just an intern, and you're already acting all high and mighty. Chapter 521. Playing tricks. Tang Wanna was afraid that Ding Chen, in her anger, might blurt out everything. She quickly gave Ding Chen a warning look, although there weren't many people in the cafe. There were still a few unfamiliar faces around. If things were laid out too plainly, it might look like they were bullying others, especially since the other party was just an intern. Ding Chen saw the look in Tang Wanna's eyes and swallowed the words on the tip of her tongue. She knew Wanna's personality. She never flaunted the fact that Qin was her husband to show off, and she didn't like such ostentation. She also understood that Wanna was protecting her, after all. As a senior employee in the company and a member of the same department, if she really got into a fight with them over a few words, she would definitely face related penalties. Chen Qianqian noticed that Ding Chen's momentum faded halfway through her sentence and was convinced she was just bluffing to intimidate her. This made her feel even more confident. Moreover, during her time in the company, she had come to understand Ding Chen's personality, carefree and straightforward. People like her were actually naive and gullible. A few provoking words would easily make her lose her temper and make mistakes. Ding Chen was actually quite popular in the department because of her cheerful and easygoing nature. Both men and women in the department treated her well and often invited her to hang out. Chen Qianqian, who was used to being the center of attention, had disliked her from the moment she joined. What's more, among the women in the department, only the interns who joined with her were willing to spend time with her. The other women clearly or subtly avoided working with her, a fact she was well aware of. However, she didn't think it was her own fault and instead believed that Ding Chen must have been gossiping behind her back out of jealousy. Who is your sister's husband? Could it be some old, decrepit partner in his 70s or 80s? Chen Qianqian said with a fake smile, her words dripping with disgust. Before Ding Chen could even get angry, Tang Wanna had already stood up, speaking sharply to her. At such a young age, your mind is filled with such messy thoughts, so filthy, only someone like you would see everyone else in the same light. Tang Wanna rarely lost her temper, but having been with Qin Hao for so long, when she did get angry, her presence was quite intimidating. Watching her stand up and lecture with her pregnant belly, Ding Chen thought she really resembled President Qin in some ways. It seemed that the longer a couple stayed together, the more alike they became in every aspect. This must be what people called couple resemblance. Chen Qianqian hadn't expected Tang Wanna, who was sitting next to her, to suddenly lecture her so sternly. Just moments ago, she had seemed like an easy-to-bully little white rabbit, but now, while scolding her, she exuded the aura of a powerful businesswoman. Stunned by the words, Chen Qianqian suddenly felt a bit flustered and stammered, what right do you have to say my thoughts are filthy? Clearly, you're just embarrassed because you've been exposed. Chen Qianqian's rebuttal was clearly lacking in confidence, but in her heart, she was still thinking that since they were business partners, if she messed things up, she would have no choice but to beg the manager for help. Tang Wanna sat back down, returning to her earlier little white rabbit demeanor, as if the commanding presence she had just displayed while lecturing someone had never existed. She picked up her spoon and continued eating the small cake in front of her, paying no further attention to the person beside her. Ding Chen sneered and ignored them any further, thinking to herself that this Chen Qianqian really had no sense of her own limitations. If you said she was foolish, she had all these little schemes. If you said she was clever, she could still spout such brainless words. If she ever found out that the old man in his 70s or 80s she was talking about was actually the very President Qin she was desperately trying to cozy up to, she'd probably be so shocked her jaw would drop. The shorter girl noticed that Ding Chen and the others had no intention of continuing the conversation. Besides, if she wanted to stay on in the future, she couldn't afford to ruin her relationship with her seniors. Unlike Chen Qianqian, who knew how to charm the higher-ups, she preferred to maintain good relations with her colleagues, so she stood up and said softly to Chen Qianqian, "Qianqian, let's head back for now. The manager's meeting might be over. She was hinting that since the manager had been in a meeting with President Qin, if the manager's meeting ended, President Qin would surely be back in his office. Before they came to the cafe, Chen Qianqian had gone upstairs to look for Qin Hao and found out he was in a meeting. She deliberately checked a few conference rooms and indeed saw Qin Hao in the large meeting room with several project team leaders. She even thought she caught a glimpse of the big boss, President Tang. She had only seen President Tang once before. The top floor wasn't a place interns could just waltz into. So she hadn't had much interaction with him. He seemed very stern and intimidating, and she'd heard from others that he had high expectations. Chen Qianqian still had some self-awareness and didn't dare to provoke him. She glared fiercely at Tang Wanna and Ding Chen. Just as she was about to stand up and leave, she caught sight of their project manager walking into the cafe from the corner of her eye. A surge of delight rose in Chen Qianqian's heart, and a plan quickly formed in her mind. As she stood up, she deliberately knocked her own cup of coffee onto Tang Wanna's clothes. Ah! Tang Wanna gasped in surprise and stood up. Ding Chen also rose abruptly, his face full of concern. The sudden turn of events had startled both of them. Chen Qianqian deliberately feigned panic, grabbing a tissue and rushing over to help Tang Wanna wipe the stain. Tang Wanna shielded her stomach with one hand and used the other to block Chen's gesture, frowning coldly as she said, "No need." Whether this young woman had done it intentionally or not, she was a scheming actress with such filthy thoughts, and Tang Wanna had to be on guard. She was the child's mother and had every right to protect her baby. Ding Chen snapped back to reality, rushed to Chen Qianqian's side, and forcefully pulled her away. The force was so strong that Chen Qianqian was yanked off balance and fell to the ground. Ding Chen anxiously grabbed Tang Wanna and asked, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Did it burn you? Do we need to go to the hospital?" At that moment, she had no mind to pay any attention to Chen Qianqian. Tang Wanna shook her head. She was just a bit startled because it was so sudden, but otherwise she was fine. Fortunately, it wasn't freshly brewed hot coffee. It had been sitting for a while and had already cooled down, so it only stained her clothes. Ding Chen only breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that she was truly unharmed. Furious, she turned her head to see the instigator still lying on the ground, looking as if she were the one who had been wronged. "Ding Chen, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to. I just slipped while holding the coffee and accidentally spilled it on this lady." Chen Qianqian began to cry as she spoke. Her mind was working fast. She had planned to provoke Ding Chen in public, making it impossible for her to stay in the company. With the manager present, she wanted him to see Ding Chen's true nature. Instead of always telling her to learn from Ding Chen, she called her Ding Chen out of courtesy. But did Ding Chen really think she was some kind of elder? She was just relying on her seniority in the company, drawing blueprints. Who couldn't do that? Chapter 522, President Qin arrives. The commotion they caused had already drawn the attention of others in the cafe. Chen Qianqian deliberately played the victim, apologizing profusely as if she were the one who had been drenched in coffee. Tang Wanna looked at her tear-streaked face and thought that maybe she really didn't do it on purpose. However, she kept a cold expression the entire time, turned around to leave, and planned to go to the lounge in her third brother's office first to change out of her dirty clothes. The entire cup of coffee had spilled on her, and it was quite uncomfortable. She intended to leave, but Ding Chen had no intention of letting Chen Qianqian off so easily. She walked step by step toward Chen Qianqian, who was still lying on the ground putting on an act, moving extremely slowly as if gathering some kind of strength. Tang Wanna tugged at her sleeve and called out softly, "Chen Chen." Ding Chen glanced back at her, giving her a reassuring look, then continued walking up to Chen Qianqian. Before anyone present could even react, and before anyone could clearly see her move, Ding Chen acted swiftly and decisively, giving Chen Qianqian no chance to dodge or react. She walked up to her, raised her hand, and delivered a hard slap across her face. She put a great deal of force into that slap, and one side of Chen Qianqian's cheek quickly swelled and turned red. Without Chen Qianqian's exaggerated apologies or the hushed whispers of the crowd, the entire room fell into complete silence. After hitting someone, Ding Chen turned around and saw their manager standing nearby, dumbfounded. The manager, usually a kind and smiling middle-aged man, was probably shocked by Ding Chen's slap. Chen Qianqian also noticed the manager standing nearby, followed by a scream, "Ah, Ding Chen, how dare you hit me?" She got up from the ground, seemingly ready to lunge at Ding Chen to retaliate, but was held back by the short intern beside her. Chen Qianqian had intended to provoke Ding Chen, thinking that at most he would just yell at her, which would be enough to get him a disciplinary record. She never expected that Ding Chen would dare to hit her in a public place like the company. She had never encountered such a situation before, and in the heat of the moment, she didn't care about anything else and just wanted to hit him back. The short girl kept holding her back, and the project manager snapped back to reality, adopting a commanding tone. He cleared his throat and asked, "What's going on with you two?" Chen Qianqian rushed to answer first. "Manager, I don't know why Sister Ding Chen hit me. I accidentally spilled coffee on her friend's clothes. I really didn't mean to. And I already apologized. That sister didn't even say anything, but Sister Ding Chen directly slapped me. My face is swollen." Chen Qianqian spoke while crying, her face red and swollen. Anyone who saw her would think she had been terribly bullied. The project manager frowned slightly. He knew Ding Chen well. The girl didn't seem like someone so unreasonable. She was usually like a ray of sunshine in the office, so why would she hit an intern today? The manager turned to Ding Chen and asked again, "What do you have to say? What happened?" At this moment, Tang Wanna was blocked by the crowd of onlookers, so the manager didn't see her and didn't know that the friend Chen Qianqian mentioned was Tang Wanna. Ding Chen didn't even bother to lift her eyelids. After all, she had already hit her, and there was nothing more to say. Her voice was stiff as she replied, "My hand slipped. It was an accident." Chen Qianqian was excited all day, pointing to her half-swollen, red face for everyone to see. "Look, everyone. Does this look like an accident? Was it unintentional?" She had figured it out. She wouldn't take this slap for nothing. Now that things had gone her way and everyone had seen Ding Chen hit her, her swollen face was the best evidence. She was determined to escalate the situation and get Ding Chen fired from the company. The manager had originally intended to hear Ding Chen's side of the story. He quite liked this girl. She had strong work skills, was proactive, and had been at JK for several years. The project manager planned to act as a mediator. A minor punishment for Ding Chen would settle the matter. Since hitting someone in a public company setting could be interpreted as a minor or major offense, with the worst-case scenario being dismissal, who would have thought this young woman would be so stubborn and aloof? Meanwhile, the intern Chen Qianqian was relentless. In such a public situation, the manager found it difficult to handle. Tang Wanna stood at the back of the crowd, observing the project manager. He seemed relatively normal and hadn't been swayed by Chen Qianqian into becoming unreasonable or completely biased in her favor. She thought to herself that if the manager were the type to be easily manipulated by an intern, JK would never have put him in his current position. The manager was just too kind-hearted by nature. In the past 2 years, the project team hadn't taken on any interns. On the rare occasions when 1 or 2 had joined before, they had been diligent and hardworking. No one had ever encountered someone like Chen Qianqian, who was always trying to stir up trouble and take shortcuts. This time, everyone was getting a real eye-opener. Now, one person was cold-faced, silent, and unwilling to explain, while the other, with a swollen face, was crying and making a scene. Demanding a resolution, Tang Wanna had initially considered stepping forward to speak with the manager about what had just happened. The cafe had surveillance footage. They could check the recordings to see whether Chen Qianqian had intentionally spilled coffee on her. The manager also planned to take both of them away and head back to the office first, since many people in the cafe were colleagues from other departments. Internal conflicts within the project team would only make them a laughingstock. If this escalated, not only would he lose face, but it would also reflect poorly on Mr. Qin. He had to quickly take these 2 troublemakers away. Just then, a group of people walked into the cafe. The one leading the way was dressed in a sharp suit, exuding an imposing aura. His handsome features could easily rival those of currently popular young celebrities, and he even carried an air of authority that added to his presence. When Tang Wanna saw the person at the front, she thought to herself, Why did he have to come to the cafe at this exact moment? It feels like things are about to get out of hand. Everyone was in the middle of a meeting. And during the break, the project manager had come down to buy coffee for a few other senior executives from the project department. However, he ended up getting stuck dealing with the situation involving Ding Chen and Chen Qianxian. He sent a WeChat message to a colleague in the meeting room, asking them to come down and pick up the coffee while he handled the matter. Qin Hao, recalling that Wanna had mentioned going to the cafe for some cake in the afternoon, unexpectedly suggested that everyone should go to the cafe to get their own coffee during the break instead of having one person do all the work. With the big boss making such a statement and even taking the lead to fetch his own coffee, how could the others not follow suit? And so, everyone from the meeting ended up coming along. Qin Hao entered with a group of people, and everyone's attention immediately shifted toward him. As soon as he stepped inside, he began searching for Tang Wanna. He didn't see his wife, but he noticed a crowd gathered around the sofa area of the cafe, unsure of what was happening. Leading his group over, the onlookers automatically parted to make way for him. When Chen Qianxian saw Qin Hao arrive, she became even more energized, secretly pleased. She was convinced that Ding Chen would surely be fired this time. With tears streaming down her face, she put on her most pitiful and wronged expression. Qin Hao entered the cafe but didn't see his wife, which immediately put him in a bad mood. He had thought Wanna had gone back to the restroom in his office to sleep and was already eager to wrap up the meeting and work early so he could find his wife and take her home. Thank you for watching. This is a full-length novel. If you'd like to see more, please leave a comment below saying looking forward to the next part, or give this video a like. I'll update based on your feedback. See you next time.